Okay, so we'll call the public hearing to order. And it's consideration of amendments to municipal planning strategy to set the maximum permitted setback for commercial scale wind turbines as outlined in the updated minimum planning regulations released by the province of Nova Scotia. And we respectfully acknowledge that we live and work in Mi'kmaq as the steward of the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. And Garth, you want to give us an update? There's no public here, so it's no wonder since we don't even have a choice in whether or not we approve it.
Right, yeah, so just as a brief overview, yeah, that's right, this was an update the province made to the minimum planning standards, and it essentially established a maximum setback across the province that municipalities could put into their planning strategy and land use bylaw for commercial or large-scale wind turbines. So the amendments that are contained in the package essentially will replace our existing policy with the new maximum setback. So we have we are proceeding with adopting the most stringent setbacks that we're now able to under the new updated rules from the province. Essentially what that is 4 times the tower height or the distance required to keep sound levels at 40 decibels measured at the dwelling, or the distance required to keep any shadow flicker from the turbine blades to a minimum of 30 minutes per month or 30 hours per year. So it kind of is a stepped criteria. Some of those criteria we didn't used to regulate, so I think that there's some potential benefits there. On the sound side, we've had to go with a reduction or an increase in this allowable sound, but that is what it is. So we'll essentially just pull out the existing policies and the planning strategies and insert those there for the next time that we have a large-scale wind turbine project going through. The current application for Bear Lake, which is amending their current development agreement, will not be subject to these plans, so this would be for anything future that
But it met all the requirements anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, any questions? Oh, anyone in the public wish to speak? You guys aren't public, so. No. Okay, any questions, council? Okay, so, Sam, I forgot to ask you if you thought this was properly before us.
I do, I reviewed it, yeah.
Okay, well, we don't have many options. Somebody want to move, we adopt the amendments?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. That's it for our agenda as far as I'm aware, so we can, a motion to adjourn the public hearing? Seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, thank you. So, we're on to the council. We'll call the council meeting to order. And approval of the agenda, order of business. Anybody have any? I know, Tom, you have a few things you want to add quick at the end, yeah. Does anybody else have anything they want to change?
I'd just like to see if you, I don't know, maybe Tara, if you could move some things. I have to leave at 20 after 11. I don't know if you just want to follow the agenda along, if there's anything later on that is of, you know, I guess you'll know what.
We might be able to pull something if we
Okay.
have to.
Yep. Great.
Yeah. So, motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Public input? No, still nobody here, so whatever. Proclamations and designations, I'm unaware of any. Committee reports, there aren't any. Public presentations, they aren't here yet. So,
Oh, minutes.
oh, minutes, I did forget the minutes. Well, there you go. Minutes of June 26th, there's the omissions. Somebody, second? Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Okay. 9.1. communicating to council and committees, corporate and strategic management.
So
okay, yeah.
that's me presenting this one on behalf of our junior policy analyst, Emily Key, who did a lot of work in this policy. Back in March, council passed a motion to direct staff to prepare policy regarding a code of conduct for presenters. So as a result, we have presented a draft in today's agenda package. The objective of this policy that we've outlined in the draft is to establish clear procedures and guidelines for the various ways that members of the public, organizations, and residents can communicate with council, with an aim of ensuring that that communication is transparent, fair, respectful, and safe. So I'd just like to highlight a couple of components of the policy. Council meeting public input requirements. So council's passed a motion regarding certain requirements around the public input session of the council meetings. So those guidelines have been incorporated into this draft. Correspondence requirements, so we do have a section here, number 15 on page 5. The CAO or their designate may withhold or redact any written correspondence, audio recordings, or audiovisual recordings that we've deemed inappropriate or disrespectful. So we have attempted to define what that would be. So anything that contains profane or vulgar language, hate speech or discriminatory remarks, personal attacks or threats, sexual content or explicit imagery, and unconstructive insults or name-calling.
Sounds reasonable.
Section 19 on page 6, we've identified any correspondence related to operational matters, so letters of inquiry or complaints from the public specific to staff. We have put in here that would be, we would follow the municipality's formal procedure for addressing public complaints regarding staff conduct, and that would be considered a personnel matter and handled within our human resources policy.
Yeah.
And public hearing requirements, number 31, on page 7, we identified that there's no specific limit to the number of speakers at any public hearing. However, we did put in that the chairperson of that hearing may limit the number of speakers or limit the time they can speak, or adjourn a public hearing to be carried out at a later date in order to allow more residents to speak. And then finally, we did want to put in here regarding the public record, which we can assume most people know that whatever they submit is a public record, but we wanted to make sure it was clear that if you are submitting correspondence, that the municipality will redact personal information for written correspondence, but if you're submitting any sort of audio-visual, we're not responsible for redacting anything. And then finally, general conduct and respect at meetings. So we have the chairperson of the meeting, the responsibility of maintaining order, and put in a few actions that the chairperson may choose to do if an individual is not being respectful. So one is interrupt or stop the presentation or input, issue a warning to the individual behaving disrespectfully, or ask that individual to leave the meeting. So I think I've covered
I think I've told
the
them
main
to leave
inputs.
before.
Yes, yeah. So we are looking for council, if they are in agreement with the draft, to give first notice of this policy, and then with the intention to approve at a future meeting the proposed draft that's set out in the attachment to this report.
Andre? Yeah.
We've had in the past folks who are passionate about a subject who will, on many occasions, come and make presentation to council under the public input, or make scheduled appointments to basically come and revisit the same issue over and over and over again, either directly or some sort of version of it, or some sort of new information they feel has come to light, and then they continue to come back and back and back with the same issues. How does this policy address that?
There's nothing in the policy specific to that.
Okay, what are we going to add to?
But we can
Because
add
that's a
if
problem.
council, yeah.
I feel.
Okay, Tina?
Thank you. Also too, and I don't know if it's part of the policy or if it would just be something that we might consider doing, and how, I'm just going to preface it with that. Other municipal units start the meetings with a public input statement, and I have an example in front of me, just to let you know what I'm thinking. So the public input statement would be read by the chair, of course, and it mentions all this. It says that we ask that all statements be respectful, we ask you provide your name, and all that stuff. And then it says, if your question or concern cannot be answered by the chair, then it will be handled as follows. Because my concern too is that when people come in, not maybe when they have a question, but when they're being negative and insinuating about staff in particular, because we experience that we don't have any way of letting people know after the fact, like that have been on live stream, that maybe wasn't accurate.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it wasn't accurate. So I just don't know, and I don't have any answers yet, but I'd like to share this as an example to maybe consider tearing it apart a bit or adding to, because
I don't mind
I
using the
just
statement.
felt very upset when people come in and they're negative, and then that's how it's left. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. So just for consideration, and just as,
Okay, so do we want a bit of a draft on what Andre said and a little bit of consideration before we adopt this? Is that what I'm hearing here?
Yep.
Yep,
I used to-
okay.
I reviewed a draft of this, and I'm not sure if it's in here or not, but in the earlier draft, I said there might be some flexibility, council might want some flexibility for presenters that you've invited in. who
Yep,
may-
that's in there.
It's in there?
It is,
Okay,
yeah.
fine, that's good. I just want
Like
to
we
make,
invited them.
because they may not meet all the technical dates and everything.
Yeah, there's a section identifying that if they're invited in, that they would not have to comply with the certain limitations.
Sure,
that are-
okay,
yeah.
great.
Okay, Tom?
Thank you, Warden Weber, through you. This is a very important step, in my opinion, and I think everything that's been noted here today, and thanks to staff, there's a lot more depth to this. And I think it shows that leadership and our structure is a new way of having to deal with things and address things. So I really encourage us to work on this and continue to do what we're thinking about. Shows respect, I believe, in both angles of the public and of our council itself. So I thank you for this.
Thank you. Okay, so, oh, Clarissa, sorry.
Thank you, Warden. 31, it says, about the number of speakers and public hearing, and it's a great redraft. However, were we not speaking that the maximum of public input was 15 minutes regardless whether it was 2, 3, or 5 people?
So
Is
that
that how,
was-
is that going to be broken down within the draft
So-
change for 31?
For regular council meetings, we do have a limitation of 5 minutes per person
Person.
with a maximum of 15 minutes.
So if 5 people show up, they all get 3 minutes? Is that, or is it?
They could, yeah.
That's the idea.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure that's still clear
Yeah.
from last time. Okay.
Yes, and public hearing, we did pull it as separately as having more people being able to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're on to, still too early for the public presentations. 11.1, road safety concerns. That's just a letter from Digby. I don't know if we want to do anything. Just information.
Receive it for information.
Yeah. Okay, 11.2, Danny Henniger on behalf of Chester Municipal Heritage Society, tipping fee exemption.
I can speak to this one.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Chester Municipal Heritage Society had an event over Canada Day, and they were requesting, so the day or two after Canada Day, they requested that their tipping fees be waived. We have done that in the past. It is not in our policy. So we issued them a one-time exemption for this because otherwise they would have had to wait with all of their garbage until today. And so we gave them the one-time exemption, asked them to write in to request, formally ask and to formally request that that's something that we consider. And I actually think that that's something that we could consider as looking at our entire policy on that, and what community groups we allow and don't allow and automatically waive, so that every time a community group has an event like that, that they're not requesting waiving of the tipping fees. So
Yeah, and we've done it in the
just
past.
direction if that's council's
We've done it
will.
for people whose houses have burnt and things like that. So,
Yeah.
Tina?
Sorry. It's okay. So, right or wrong, my approach has been, after last year's example of the New Ross Fair and garbage that wasn't picked up, no fault of GE's. I reach out to GE's directly. And so yesterday, for example, Brian Pache and I met with the New Ross Farmers Association at site of the fairgrounds and talked about the 3 events that they have that are coming up the end of August. Sorry, 3rd week of August, 4th week of August, and then the 1st weekend of September. 3 big events that are happening. So I find GE's very community-minded, more than I ever actually could have imagined community-minded, and poof, a solution is found just like that. So there's no, no concern around garbage not being picked up. We found a solution that at this point in time is no cost to the community group. It's all about communication and discussions and finding out what's needed in the community. So sorry, I guess I just jump in and do that directly.
I know,
Yeah. Brian
I've done
Pache,
it too.
because I guess I knew him before he started with GE's, and he lived in my community for a while and now lives just up the road. It's easy because he's traveling through my community. But again, I would suggest that with anybody. I think I might have even passed his contact information on to a fellow councillor to do that. So I find it,
I know I've done it at the Legion where I've asked them because they had an event and they had way more garbage than they were supposed to have, and I just asked them to pick it up, please, would you? I mean, I don't think it's a big issue, but having a bit more of a look at the policy wouldn't hurt anything, I guess. Andre?
Thank you for that anecdote, Councillor Connors. I think what's being requested here is exemption that's placed in the policy so that should they haul their own waste, they have relief from the tipping fee.
Yeah.
I have no issue with that. And I would like it to be enshrined in policy so that I don't have to be involved in these conversations going forward. So I have no problem if, it sounds like the body language in the room is interested in that. So I would hope that we could proceed and we'll see an amendment to the policy.
Yeah, and then it makes it a little easier for Tara to say yes. So develop some sort of a little thing for us. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I guess it's still plenty early, so 12.1, Regional Economic Development.
Morning, Council.
Morning.
Okay, so 12.1, what we have before you right now is a request for decision to direct staff to proceed with the proposed project approach and contribute $10,000 towards a study and action plan that we have been developing with our counterparts across Lunenburg and Queens County. So this was mentioned briefly at our last council meeting because it came up at the mayors and wardens meetings in the last couple of months. So essentially, the report that you have gives the full overview, but what I wanted to kind of walk through so that we outline the approach that has been proposed. Currently in Lunenburg and Queens County and on the South Shore of Nova Scotia, we do not have a regional economic development organization, a body. And despite that fact, our municipalities have been working very well and very collaboratively together over the last number of years since the former economic development REN was disbanded. So we have been working very well together over the last number of years. We've done a number of events together. We have done a number of projects together, and all have been fairly successful, we believe. However, the work on this has been very project-based. So we have tended to go from a project like working on the BDO zone work that we did, and we'll do that, and then we'll move on to another project. So what we have been discussing as our economic development group over the past year is how we can make this approach a little bit more strategic and look at things from a more priority standpoint. So what are our collective priorities? Where do we all share priorities around economic development? Where are the areas where we might be able to work more collaboratively together and do it better as a region versus where are the things that we could definitely do better ourselves here at the local level? So what we have done is designed an approach to look at a review of our current environment. So it would do an analysis of the entire region and say what are the things that we are currently doing, if you've been listening to some of the other councils, you may have heard that we have about 5 different people within Lunenburg County, for example, that have dip their toes in economic development, but all have slightly different focuses. So Lunenburg, for example, might play more of a focus on tourism, whereas Modal might play a bit more of a focus on land sales and the development of Osprey. Forget the name, but you know the area that I'm referring to. So we're trying to do an analysis of the entire region and say, here's what different groups are doing, here's where we might have gaps, here are the things that other regions currently are working together on that we don't currently work on. So it's a way to look at the current environment, look for the gaps and opportunities, and then only at the end of that, propose a potential structure that we can perhaps look at accomplishing shared priorities together. So that's the approach that we've been looking at, and this was included in our budget this year. The budget that was presented back in March, April, May. We included $10,000 towards this project to be able to look at the things that we are doing collectively and come up with a list of shared priorities, and then look at how we might be able to accomplish them together. So the other thing that I wanted to mention about this, and any questions that anybody has, I'm happy to go through, but the one other thing that I wanted to mention about this is the study and action plan that we are doing now would not move us down a path to accepting these recommendations. It would provide recommendations that would then be brought back to council for a further decision. So this is not the starting of a REN, this is not the starting of an economic development partnership. It's the process is intended to look at what our priorities are, where there might be gaps, where there are things that we could do better together, and then recommend an approach that would allow us to do that. Only then would that be brought back to council for a future decision. That's kind of the one other thing, which hopefully you saw yesterday. I was like, there's one other thing I was trying to remember here, is the funding was officially approved by the province yesterday. So you should have received the email yesterday from the CAO indicating that the $50,000 has been approved by the province for this project. So with that, I will.
Questions, people? Della?
So, so the funding from the province is for the total amount?
It's for 50,000.
That's what I
yes.
thought,
Yeah.
And that's great, but, I mean, I've been to those discussions with other municipalities, and, I mean, you know, like you say, it's basically $10,000. It sounds like a lot of money in the whole scheme of things, but I don't see the value, just my opinion. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Well, Tina?
Thank you. Thank you for your work on this, Brian
No
and
worries.
Aaron and Tara and Ashley and everybody that would be involved to get it here today. My thoughts remain the same from the last meeting that we held, June 26th. I'm looking at the minutes in front of me. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done collaboratively on projects to date of mutual interest, joint tourism promotion. I'm waiting anxiously for the housing market data collection report, and so on, which you've listed in there. So at this point, unless other councillors as well can convince me, I'm not seeing the value in terms of voting in support of this proposal in front of us.
Andre?
I have the good fortune of getting to hang around this place for a while now, and I've seen a lot of these come and go, and I just see another worthless regional study that's going to tell us everything that we already know. And yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot of money, another 10 grand, throw it down the hole and burn it. I think it's, I would drop dead in shock if something came out of this study that we didn't already know.
Well,
Based on my lengthy experience at this table, at this point.
I can tell you that I have no interest in forming a new regional economic REN or anything like that. But I don't see the harm in trying to determine how we can better work together and accomplish more work with our abutting municipalities. I mean, we've taken the approach lately that anything anybody else wants to do, that we don't want to work with them, and you know, I'm not sure that's overly helpful to us. And, if our staff weren't involved in this and weren't working on this together and identified some need for it, then I wouldn't be in favor either. But I mean, they seem to think that if we could identify where the gaps are and how we could best address them, and the province is willing to give us that much money to help us do it, I don't see the issue, but that's only me. Andre?
Okay, so we have 2 economic development professionals that are employed here full-time.
Yep.
And I have a hard time coming to terms with them not already collaborating and communicating with their partners in other
They are.
jurisdictions. I have every confidence they're already doing that. And if there are some gaps, I have no doubt they're already talking about this. What new information are we going to get for this money that our professionals and their professionals are not already talking about? I have 0% confidence that our 2 professionals that are trained in this are going to somehow learn something from this study. I could be wrong.
Well, I'll let
Probably
Brian
won't.
speak to that. Oh, sorry. Oh, Tina.
Thank you.
I just wanted to answer the
Oh,
question.
sorry, yeah, no, sorry. So you could, go ahead.
I'm happy to step in. I just didn't want to. You had chimed in. From our approach and the recommendation that we are putting forward is the fact that yes, we are very much engaging with our fellow colleagues in other areas of both our county and Queens. We've kind of limited to that span as the reach. The way I would say it is that right now we have our priorities, which are given to us by council, and each of the other jurisdictions as well have their priorities, which are given to them by their councils. Sometimes it can be difficult to find alignment between those various councils. And so more than learning something new from this, what we're trying to do, or what I believe, I don't want to speak for everybody who's going through this, but from our unit here, what we are hoping to achieve from this is to have shared aligned priorities that we can work on together, as opposed to different priorities that come from different areas. So for example, workforce development is something that we haven't necessarily done a good job on yet. I shouldn't say done a good job. It hasn't been a priority of ours yet, but it has been identified in our growth plan, and it has been identified in different things. And it's something that we feel would be better done regionally. However, unless we can align 5 different units with the potential of having Queens also in there, it's hard to get all of the councils behind doing a project like that. So this would.
Does $10,000 help you do that?
No.
Why is it that you can't have meetings and
No.
just talk about these things and do what you probably are doing already?
So I wouldn't say that we couldn't. We would definitely do it that way if this were not to go through. So we have taken this approach because it's a way that we can work together towards a common goal and come up with an action plan at the end that would allow us to implement, that all councils would be able to approve and get behind. That's the approach that we've been taking. But if council were not to approve it, exactly what you just said is how we would approach it moving forward.
I guess, sorry if I can just jump in, because it's answering my question. If our rec department wanted to collaborate on regional recreation priorities, I would just expect that they would meet with those in our region and talk about their priorities and our priorities and where the synergies were, and they would come back with a report to council and we would talk about it here. Nobody yet has explained to me what is going to come from this study that we couldn't do with our professionals. We're already spending a ton of money on economic development, and we have an entire huge reserve built up to support economic development activities. Really, so more than anybody in our region, we are behind economic development, I would say. And I have yet to understand how this study, another bureaucratic study, is going to help anything.
Anyone else wish to speak to it? Oh, Councillor Church.
Well, if all of the other parties are in agreement of this, it may be useful just, for the year to get the information. I'm not saying that we should create a new REN at all, but to be specific, and if there's specific issues that they intend to work on, I think it would be useful. We've already budgeted that money. I mean, I don't think we're throwing away $10,000. And if everyone agrees to it, it's a good, sign that we're willing to have partnership with other units. I think it could be useful. That's just my thoughts.
Della?
I'll put a motion on the floor, not, not to proceed, excuse me.
We have a seconder?
Or maybe that's not even a motion, I don't know.
No, you don't need a motion.
You don't need, okay, sorry.
So I guess what I need is anybody prepared to make a motion that we do proceed? Do we have a seconder? We do not. The motion's not on the table, so there's no motion to proceed.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, we're on to 12 point, oh, wait a second. I'm be into my public hearing stuff. Public presentation. Oh, no, yes, you're still on.
I thought so. I didn't know if you were going to move on or anything.
No.
So this one should be fairly simple. This is just an informational update for everybody on the economic development sponsorship. So it's one additional sponsorship that has been approved, which was the Swing for Shoreham Golf Tournament. So it's just for information. No motions needed for this one either. So it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you, okay. Okay, well, I'm still 12.3, financial update.
All right, good morning, council.
Uh,
So what I have here for you today is a departmental update. This is, I think, kind of the first of a new format of reporting that we're planning to bring to you departmentally at a regular basis. The focus of this is not really intended, it's kind of missing, filling a gap that would be missing in other reporting formats. So, there's, the capital budget and reporting on that, and there's the strategic priorities and plans and the reporting on that. There's tracking of direction that we've received from council, and that has its own format. This is more focused on kind of the other stuff that doesn't get captured by those kind of highlighted reports. So what I have here is a report that kind of just goes through a lot of the day-to-day, some of the project stuff that's a little quieter, the things that are burning the cycles of the people in the Financial and Information Services Department. I've kind of prepared this, depending on what I'm talking about, there'll be different time frames that I'm referencing, and that just I make clear what I'm talking about each time. There's, some things make sense to report by fiscal year, some things it's easier to report by calendar year or over a particular period. So we'll start with just some statistics of recent activity. In revenue administration, so here's just a kind of a rundown of what's been going on in that world. So in 2024, we had 975 ownership changes to process through our systems. That's down very slightly from the previous year and up a bit, 8% from 2019. In these ones in particular, we noticed a lot of activity change at the early days of the pandemic, and so I've kind of given a year over year as well as a 2019 as a pre-pandemic reference, just to give those frames. I'm not doing that with all the stats, but this area in particular, we saw a lot of changes there, so I felt that was relevant. New account creation, we had 140 new accounts created in the previous calendar year, which is up 13% in a single year, and 97% since the pre-COVID times. 265 tax certificates were issued last year, which is up 27% from 2023 and 82% from 2019. Low-income exemptions, we issued 209 low-income exemptions in the last fiscal year. That was up very slightly from the previous fiscal year, but up 32% from the 5-year previous period. That was less to do with the pandemic, but more to do with some of the changes in that low-income policy that were processed, I think, shortly before I started here. It was really the driving force behind that. Mortgage updates, just over 300 mortgage updates were processed in 2024, which is up just over 50% year over year. This one fluctuates quite wildly year to year, so you can see the change year over year is higher than the change from 6 years previously. but in general up. Role changes, so this would be in-year assessment role updates. 80 filed role changes, these are the ones that are initiated by PVSC directly, which is up 27% from the prior year and 233% from the pre-COVID time. Section 68 role changes, these are successful appeals, so initiated by the property owners. There were 70 of those last year, which is up 46%, and that's the same number from 2023 and from 2019. Twice a year, we mail out about 14,000 tax bills. So that is, obviously we don't have 14,000 residents here, but that's, if there's multiple owners, we have to send multiple copies of the bill. So yeah, about 14,000 twice a year get mailed out. In the most recent cycle, we see about 200 of these being returned to us for having bad addresses, essentially. I don't have specific data on this, but I can tell you that anecdotally, the number of returned mail has significantly decreased over the last 5 to 10 years. We've had some really good work in investigating address changes and finding, doing the work to fix those errors over time. And so that's probably down 4 or 5-fold from what it would have been previously. So some really good work there. Tax sales, now we don't do tax sales as often as some other municipalities do, which is fortunate. I'm not a big fan of selling people's properties from them if we don't have to. But in each of the last 2 tax sales, so since I've been here a little over 4 years now, we did one in 2024 and one in 2022. Each of those sales led to 6 properties being sold at auction. However, just selling 6 properties takes a lot more than just 6 properties worth of work. Like, for example, in 2024, we sent out 54 preliminary notices to lead to that tax sale. And in 2022, it was 49 preliminary notices. And then the next step along the way is the notices of intent to sell. So last year, we sent out 41 of those notices of intent to sell, and only 15 in 2022. So that's an indication of the success of the work that's being done in that preliminary and communication part. Basically, the reduction in those numbers from preliminary to notice of intent to sales is people paying off their tax bills before we get to tax sale. So we are currently working on the next tax sale, and I don't have the exact numbers, but I can say that they're a little bit lower than they have been, partially because we're doing them a little bit quicker, and partially just because of the work that's been done on these last couple to clean up those records, and just chasing people for paying their taxes, so we don't have to get to the process of threatening to sell their properties on them. Some more stats on the accounts payable and payroll side. So, oh yeah.
Just down the tax sale, somebody asked me this actually. So when it goes to tax sale, say if the taxes owed are $10,000, and the tax sale auction, or whatever you call it gets $15,000. So is that remainder sent back to the property owner?
So the amount that's due, including any advertising costs, legal fees for the tax sale, that would be recovered by us to cover the costs. Any excess gets held in trust, and then the owner, the previous owner, would go through, I believe it's the Supreme Court of Nova Scotia, to get an order for release of those funds. And so determining who is eligible for the release of those funds is not on us, it's on the courts. And then we would get that notice. We hold those funds in trust for 20 years. And then if nobody has claimed those funds in those 20 years, then they revert back to us as well.
Well, that's the question they got. He said, does the municipality keep the money? I said, no, they don't. I'm positive they don't. We're not in the profit business here for somebody to profit.
Often we actually do, just because of the nature of the types of properties that end up going to sale. A lot of the times it's properties that, for example, belong to a person who's deceased, and the beneficiaries of that person's estate maybe have no interest in it. We've heard that a number of times of, nope, I don't have any interest, just get rid of it. And a lot of times people don't go through the effort to get that order, to get the payment back. So we do see a lot of times that we do end up collecting that money. It's just 20 years later.
Yeah, that's, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Clarissa.
Thank you. A very innocent question. What's the acronym PVSC stand for?
Property Valuation Services Corporation. They're the provincial organization that does the assessment valuations for the entire province of Nova Scotia each year.
Thank you.
In accounts payable and payroll, so the number of invoices, so that's just for everything that they did work for us, they send us an invoice, we pay it. There were 5,563 of those paid in the previous fiscal year, which was up 10% from the year before that, and 32% over the previous 3 years. I put a little asterisk on that 3 years because I wanted to pull the pre-COVID numbers, but unfortunately I was running into some technical issues with my accounting software. I couldn't pull that data, so all I had was 3 years of data for now, but as with everything else, things are increasing pretty steadily over time. About 40% of our AP payroll employees' time is spent on the payroll function specifically, the other 60% being spent on the accounts payable side. Now that's, I put 0.4 of an FTE. That doesn't count the review and supervision of that person's work, so that's just the one person, about 40%. The demand on that particular function has been growing fairly steadily as you know, as more employees are onboarded, as there are changes to benefits and pensions, that increases the workload. However, there's also some efficiencies, as you know, Anita, who does that role now, has been in that role for a couple years since the previous person retired, and as she becomes more familiar, she's been able to become more efficient. But you know, there are limitations to efficiency. Obviously, she's probably reaching those now, now that she's fully up to speed on all that stuff. So that percentage hasn't been changing, but I would expect that it will increase over time as the payroll becomes more robust and complex. So the things that impact that type of work are if somebody's got a salary change for their annual review, they had a raise, the cost of living adjustments take quite a bit of processing, benefits calculations, the workload on that has been increasing over time, the new pension that we entered into last year, as well as, for example, council receiving some new benefits as compared to what they used to get. And then, of course, onboarding and retirements has some functions there as well. Next, I've got some of the IT stats. Now, these ones are presented as within the last 120 days. That's just kind of a standard reporting timeline for that function. And this would be as of a couple weeks ago when we pulled it. So just an example of the type of workload that goes on over a 3 or 4 month period there. So there were 207 help desk tickets resolved. Just over 201,000 emails were received into our system over a 120-day period. Of those, almost 14,000 were spam emails that were blocked. 170 of those emails were identified as having malware, and they were blocked. Additionally, 109,000 and change emails were blocked for being identified as spoofing, which is the action of making an email appear as though it's coming from a different address to appear legitimate in order to. So that is a heavy area of work for IT security right now. I'm sure you've seen in the news the various municipalities and organizations dealing with cyber attacks. They often are initiated through email, so that's obviously a really important area for us to focus on. Just shy of 80,000 sign-in attempts have been blocked over a 120-day period. That's more than 600 a day. This is primarily from blocking filters that we have set up. For example, we don't allow logins from Russia, and just over 1,000 of those blocked attempts were attempts from Russia directly. And then some other IT stuff, but also relates to AP. So just about 1,500 invoices were processed in that period, as well as issuing 20 purchase orders.
Yeah.
We need to go back to letter, mail.
Yeah.
I disagree.
desk and talk to us.
There are things to be concerned about and aware of and work on. The benefits, I think, outweigh those for now. We'll see. Maybe the solar flares will change that, but my hand doesn't work that well. Into procurement. Now, procurement is an area that we have been seeing drastic increases in recent time. You've seen that we've had to hire a full-time body to deal with that. You've seen the capital budgets. That's not the only thing that goes into procurement. Operating budgets also will impact that. So, for example, this year, or as of right now, or when I wrote this a couple weeks ago, there were 48 procurement requests in progress. So that's from any purchase above $10,000 as per our policy, goes through a procurement requisition request, and then through that, depending on what it is, there's a bunch of work that needs to be done to get through to buying something. So there's 48 of those currently ongoing. 5 tenders have already been awarded so far since the beginning of this fiscal year. There are 3 tenders currently posted live at the moment, and 5 more are closed pending award, and I think a couple of those are on the agenda today, actually. In municipal lending programs, so the PACE program is still fairly slow. There are 3 current participants. 2 of those are new since just this fiscal year. I know we just recently had some changes to that program to reduce the interest rate and some other stuff there. So it's still slow, but it appears to be picking up. The water supply upgrade lending program was fairly consistent for years, and then last year really took a big spike with all the water issues that people were having. So there are 27 currently active loans. 12 of those were new just since the beginning of the last fiscal year. And then there are another 12 or so who are waiting because they knew there was a change to the bylaw coming, and the existing bylaw was only covering up to $10,000, which is not even close to enough, which is why I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago you would have seen a change to that bylaw. And so there are a good dozen or more people who are waiting for that change so that they can then apply to continue. So we expect to see continued increased volume there. Private road maintenance and improvements, so that's where the private road associations can request that council provide them their budgeted funds for the year, and then we collect through an area rate through the members of that association. I wrote here there are 18 associations currently participating. There are actually 17. One of them has removed themselves. They've decided they'd rather do it themselves. 5 of those were new, created in the finance side since the beginning of the last fiscal year, 24-25. A few of those were approved before the beginning of that year, but from when they submitted their first budget, there were 5 new ones. And one of those new ones is the one that has then voluntarily removed themselves. I guess they did it once and then backed themselves out. Next, I have some highlights of recent activities. So this is sort of regular ongoing operations type stuff, that just things that have been happening lately. So from a front counter and customer service perspective, the 2025 interim bills were due on June 16th. So of course we see a large spike of engagement with people coming in to pay their taxes, calling, making payments through their banks, all that fun stuff. In this particular case, we saw a significant increase in the usage of e-transfer payments. And the assumption there is that a lot of people were concerned about the risk of a stoppage at Canada Post, so they didn't want to take the risk of mailing in a check. So e-transfers is absolutely one of the ways we like to accept payment. It is a little bit more effort to process those payments than it is to receive a check, but that's just one of the things that we do. As a general note, any significant changes or notices going out to the general public in the municipality will increase the volume of interactions, phone calls, visits in person. This includes things like PVSC sending out assessment notices in January. Anytime we send out an arrears letter or tax bills, of course, there's going to be an increase in volume. When the bottled water program was spun up in last fall, for example, there was heavy volume on that one. And then just any issues related to any level of government, we tend to see a lot of people who, people don't tend to understand a lot of the intricacies of the responsibilities and scope of different levels of government. For example, we got a call a couple weeks ago from somebody sitting in traffic on the 103 on construction, complaining about the construction that we have absolutely nothing to do with. Just an example of the kind of things that we get calls about.
Everything under the sun.
Some other stuff that I have seen just being able, where I sit, I hear people at the front counter quite a lot. I hear a lot of people asking for water testing kits. It seems that that's going up. We don't keep track of those specifically, but we do distribute or provide water testing kits for people who want to test their well water. We have multiple locations if people want to take it to HRM to get tested, or if people want to take it to Bridgewater to get tested. So there's 2 different options there. Often people are just coming in for waste collection schedules. That is a pretty common interaction. Very low requirement. Somebody will walk in and say, "Where do I get a waste collection schedule?" And the person at the counter will say, "It's right behind you." Hopefully that's it. Some regular stuff on the procurement side. So now that we've got a full-time procurement officer, it's great that we can meet the needs of that group or that function. Some things that she, as well as the previous procurement person who's now focused more on the other areas of their job, they're assisting in process evaluation and providing feedback for improvement with the bids and tenders tools. Now, bids and tenders is the online tool that we use for e-procurement, online bidding for tenders. And fortunately, that vendor has been very supportive of having users provide feedback and recommendations for improvement to take the user experience and improve the service that we're being provided. So we're really happy to help with that. Also working on some internal process improvements. With the volume increase in procurement and the scope increase of the size of the things that we're procuring and the complexity, we're seeing some, growing pains and some ways that we can improve internally to make sure that we're doing things more efficiently, more appropriately, more effectively. Also, just given the current political environment, I guess, globally, keeping apprised of all the changes that are or may be impacting our ability to procure or the cost of doing so. So keeping apprised of those current events is a portion of her job as well. Continuing on with the regular recent activity stuff, so in IT support, every time we onboard a new staff, we've got to acquire some new hardware, we've got to get them set up with their accounts and the various different software services that they're going to need throughout the course of their job. As a standard, it would be, email and document storage functions, but depending on what they do, they might need access to accounting software or to our town suite software or any other software suites that they might use. Recently, some highlights: they've completed deployment of the new laptops and desktop computers to everyone. I think that would also include the iPads that you all have once you were elected. And our IT department manages over 30 different applications that we are subscribing to. So that would include the big high-level ones like Laserfish for our document storage records management, Microsoft Dynamics GP for our financial services and accounting, and Paradigm for Scalehouse, as well as a number of other software suites for various different functions. There's also some work around cash flow and bank management, so constantly monitoring cash levels in our operating account to ensure that, when we run a check batch, that we have the cash in the account to cover it. Once or twice a year, we might run a check batch and go, oh, we probably need to make sure we got some more cash, because if we're spending on, for example, big capital projects, that money comes out of our operating account when we pay the bill, and then the funding for it comes from whatever the approved funding source, and sometimes the timing between spending the money and funding it means that we end up in a short-term cash flow issue that we have to manage and deal with. Also, with just bank reconciliation, this is something that requires daily monitoring of all cash transactions. Every penny that comes into our bank account has to be reviewed, identified, recorded appropriately to make sure that our bank records tie to our accounting records. And then there's a monthly reconciliation process that's done to ensure that those numbers agree. That process takes anywhere between 2 days and 4 days for a person to complete, depending on the complexity and the volume of transactions that are outstanding. Some other stuff that burns our hours, so quarterly HST remittance. Some recent changes to HST caused a little bit of an increase in the workload there, but we're staying on top of it, of course. As well as receiver general remittance, so that would be on payroll stuff, so biweekly payroll, monthly payroll, all the remittance for taxes and EI and CPP and all those different deductions that we make off of your paychecks. Another one would be preparing and sending tracking monthly landfill invoices, so every month we send out between 50 and 65 invoices for landfill customers for all that would be for, like the commercial customers who come in and drop off a number of loads and get billed. On the financial reporting side, lately we've been working, of course, on the 24-25 fiscal year end. Some of the highlights of I'll call it fun. I actually do kind of find it fun, but it's also frustrating sometimes. So aligning our reserve entries with the new reserve landscape. I know Council approved some changes to our reserves a few months ago. We're working on a policy update to align with that. And then, of course, aligning our accounting records with those changes. That's been interesting. Fund accounting is always a little bit more complicated than it feels like it should be.
I just want to know, are the people in the audience, are you in a hurry or? No? Okay. I just wanted to make sure because we're running late for your appointments.
Yeah. And then some technical accounting issues, so the debits and credits. I don't know anybody who's done a 101 accounting course, but around our TCA, so that's our, I'm blanking on the word, capital assets, tangible capital assets, asset retirement obligations, and the reserve accounting. There's been some fun technical accounting that Shannon and I have been working through. Those are kind of the key pieces of the financial year end this year. We've loaded the 25-26 budget into our GP software. Always working on mandatory provincial reporting. These are standardized reports that the province requires us to submit every year. I've listed a few of them here. The SOEs, that's Statement of Estimates, so those are budget documents for revenues and expenditures. The AER is an asset expenditure report that is based on spending against the Canadian Community Building Fund, or previously known as the gas tax reserves. And the CIP, that's our capital investment plan, so that's our capital budget in a standardized format for the province. There's also a pre-construction report we've recently had to complete. Every year we do this. It's again aligned with that CCBF funding to make sure that the province is comfortable with everything that we're saying we're going to spend out of that fund this year. And the FIR is the financial information report. That is the standardized format of our year-end consolidated and non-consolidated financial information. There's also some mandatory Statistics Canada reporting on power consumption and generation. This is required to be completed monthly, and then there's also an annual report there. So yeah, our financial analyst does an excellent job on those ones. There's been an increase in the workload around the Zoval Library with the recent changes. They've changed over the directors and caretakers, and so the amount of work that's going in there's been a bit of an increase in just, they're revising the space to make it more of a public space versus a living space, and the increased cost processing that goes around with that work. We've seen an increase recently in donation receipts around the Designated Community Fund. There have been a number of larger community fundraising campaigns that we've been processing through that. I'm sure you've seen it here in requests for those grants as well. And then while it's quieted down a little bit, we have seen quite an increase in freedom of information requests over the last year or so. And that has certainly been eating a lot of time from a couple of our staff. So this next section is a little more project focused, not the day-to-day ongoing, but the particular projects. So server infrastructure lifecycle replacement, that was in the capital budget, but I'd like to mention that that was recently completed. It's a fairly major hardware infrastructure upgrade, replacing those things. I'm very proud of the IT team for having done that within budget and without a single minute of downtime for anybody. They managed to switch that all over without anybody noticing, which is the ideal when you're in IT. Nobody should notice, which is part of why I want to highlight all the work they do, because if they're doing it right, you don't notice it. And even if they're doing it right, you sometimes do, but then they fix it. And then the previous equipment that's being replaced is being moved to a second location to be used in disaster recovery planning backups of our data on an off-site location. Another project has been ongoing lately is a GIS system migration, so that's the Geomatic Information Systems. Our provider has changed their server, basically, and so we had to migrate all our data from the previous server to the new one, and then rebuild all the web maps to align with the architecture of the new server. Sounds so simple when I say it out loud like that. The Questica budget software implementation. So we've got the operating module, it's been built, and now we're working on the capital and payroll modules. It's currently underway. Really looking forward to seeing the results of having that moving forward into the next budget cycle. And then just some policy work. So you're probably kind of aware of this because policy work tends to show up here at council, but financial reserves policy documents, we're working on those. And the amended fees policy that you would have heard some information on a few weeks ago, been working on that. Some other interdepartmental projects, so that new public works facility that we've recently purchased. So the IT team's been out there, set up all the infrastructure, the wiring, the hardware that they need out there. And we did some records management work for documents stored. We have the storage lockers, I always get confused, up that way. And we had to go through that, dig through some old banker boxes to say, do we need to move this to the new site, or can we get rid of some of these things? I wish I could have said we got rid of more of it, but we did get rid of a good chunk of maybe 40 boxes of finance records. Found some kind of cool stuff, actually, some old annual reports from like the mid-'70s through to the early '80s.
Yeah, I saw some of those.
So if anybody wants to look at some of those, I have them on my desk downstairs. I also found some old debenture documents that look like they've been printed by like a money printer. They got all, like from the 1950s and 60s, some really neat old records. We didn't need to keep them, but I kept a few just as examples.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I got a couple.
Yeah. And then some insurance policy updates, obviously. We're acquiring a new major facility. We've had to go through some work with our insurance company to make sure that they're comfortable insuring it for us. Purchase order implementation. So POs are now being issued for all procurement above $10,000. Really happy with that. There are some process changes required for receiving an approvals process, whereas previously we would have been approving payment of invoices. Now the whole process of a purchase order and a receiving document serves as that approval. So some process changes, some change management within the different people responsible for purchasing and approvals. And we've gone through some work helping to clean up the sewer connection deposit files. So that would be someone makes a deposit on their sewer connection, and then at the end they either pay the excess or get refunded the difference. There was kind of a backlog. We will be talking about this a little later today as well. And then the implementation of the sewer infrastructure charges bylaw. So that was last year. Council passed a new bylaw. There's some work with the Public Works and the building departments and finance to make sure that we're all set up and able to process those payments and charges when they're due and to record them properly. We're getting close to the end here, last couple of pages.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
There is, and I should mention, this is not intended to be an exhaustive list of everything we do. This is just the stuff that kind of comes.
Just the highlights.
Just the highlights, yeah.
Right.
So some more regular activity, interdepartmental support. Not going to focus too much on this. It's sort of standard business as usual stuff. But grant management and reporting, we support making sure that our grant reporting function ties to our accounting records and that it's all tracked and reconciled between the two sources. For example, tracking the interest accrued on the Sustainable Services Growth Fund money that we received a couple of years ago is one of those pieces. Sewer connection deposits, infrastructure charges, GIS mapping support, asset management support, streetlight billing, so from Nova Scotia Power to recording that through to the appropriate area rates. Running the IT help desk. If you ever have some IT issues, you got somebody who's helping you out pretty quickly usually. Software contract support for those more than 30 software services I mentioned earlier. And just general records management work that's ongoing as usual. Some upcoming priorities, again, I've written here, very much not exhaustive.
Last page.
Yeah, is it? Oh, I could read it again if you want. So we're going to finalize the 24-25 fiscal year end with the audit to be completed, the field work for the auditors to be completed in August this year. We've got the audit committee meeting for September 18th. The MGA recent changes last year allow for now we can deliver tax bills electronically. Previously, we were required to send them in paper form. Now, with approval from a resident or a property owner, we can send them just digitally and get them off paper. So that's something that our finance team is working on improving, so reduce that workload on the volume of bills that we've got to mail out. We outsource that. Yeah, the local liquors do it for us. Yeah. So continuing with the projects mentioned above, the Questica, the purchase orders, the policy work, all that fun stuff. Preparing for the tender of consultant work that's in the budget for this year, so that ERP needs analysis for the change in our accounting software that's coming in a few years, as well as the digital service delivery, that's the app. So defining the scope and getting ready to go out and procure that consultant support. Also, you'll see probably in August or September, the annual update to the low-income tax exemption, so that when the second tax bills go out, we're ready to start processing those applications for reductions. I can't say that we do, we have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. Tina?
I'm trying to get it on.
Thank you. So I was thinking back a couple of slides, but I just picked my head up really quick because you mentioned something, the low-income tax.
Yep.
I've had a couple calls from St. Vincent de Paul in particular, wondering when we're going to be setting that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm to get it to them right away, of course, because that's,
Yep.
they work with people.
So
here.
we wait till second bills go out before we update that policy generally.
Before we update
So we don't
policy.
really accept applications for the current year until the second bill's gone out.
Okay. And they-
No, it doesn't have to be paid, just has to go out,
Okay.
right? Because we need to know what the total bill for the year is, because there is a maximum,
Maximum. Yeah.
So my question was around updating the policy. I recognize that we typically start letting people know about it, we're not promoting it, letting people know about it October to March, right? But their question was around when we have those figures in front of us so that they can let their individuals know that they're working with. So when we update the policy. And I couldn't quite remember when that comes into council, even though I've been sitting here.
So it'll be late summer,
Late
either
summer,
either
okay.
August or September. I mean, our policy does have guidelines for the
Update, yeah.
the benchmarks that we use to increase the thresholds and the income. So if someone wanted to look at that and say, well, I could, because that information, those benchmarks are published already, you could look at what they are for the year and say, well, I expect that it's likely to be this.
Yeah.
But we won't make that official until it comes back to council,
I
obviously.
did have that conversation with the gentleman around the last couple of years and how, again, as you had said, either at the cusp of you coming in or just before, how we had introduced that. But I'll get him some actual figures and those thresholds. So late summer, August or September. Thank you.
Yeah, the applications were generally available once the second bills go out in
yeah.
September.
Yeah, no.
And that is one of the things that I hear somewhat regularly at the front counter, people coming in and asking about it. There often is some confusion of the difference between the provincial seniors
I
rebate
know.
and the municipal low income exemption. And so that's something that the women downstairs have become very adept at explaining to people who come in asking about one or the other and trying to explain to them why we're not doing anything about it right now.
Just as a comment, one thing that threw me off a little bit was when we had the potential for the postal strike. I was happy to learn that the province was sending out they sent their forms out early to beat the strike. So when I started getting the calls from my community to help fill out those applications I thought, well, I don't think you got it in the mail yet. Are you talking last year's? But the province sent them out early to beat the strike. So I was happy to know that about the province.
Yeah, and there were some changes to the way the provincial rebate was processed a couple of years ago. They used to they'd get their application from the province, they'd have to come into us and get evidence that it was all paid from the previous year. And now the province has established a process where they just receive the application, they will reach out to us directly to
It's
check
right
it.
on the form.
And there is still some confusion from people who are accustomed to the old way, so we're getting a lot of people come in and asking for evidence that they've paid their taxes when actually they don't need to do that. So that is one of the things that the people at the front counter are very good at explaining to people, and it does come up fairly regularly.
Sharon?
Thank you. Might be a thought to put something in the newsletter regarding that. I get a lot of inquiries and there's a lot of misunderstanding regarding the rebate. So something in the newsletter just to
I think we
clarify.
ought to, too.
We do that every year, yep, for
You do
sure.
that. Well.
And I won't say regularly, but I have heard a comment from people before saying, well, we do put, you should tell us. Well, we put that in the newsletter that gets mailed out to everyone. Oh, I don't read that. Like,
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
my,
yeah.
okay, well,
tell us we should tell you and then tell me you don't read the thing we send you. It's like, there's only so much you can do to help people sometimes,
Why don't
but
you tell
yeah.
us about that? Yeah, well, it's there in your garbage can. If you just read it, you can put it in your garbage can.
Recycling bin, hopefully.
Yeah, well, no, they had it in garbage.
Yeah, and then we'll be going through some area rate reviews. This is kind of triggered by the streetlight stuff. Just really like looking at the mapping and saying, okay, do these properties make sense to be that area rate? Sometimes if you look at the mapping, you'll see, oh, this one's missing, or, over the years, things have happened, and there needs to be a little bit of review there. Yeah, so that's one of the upcoming priorities as well. Anyway.
Anyone else, any questions? Because we're getting where we got to move along somehow.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Lots of
everyone.
stuff going on, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, our 9:30 appointment is here. So, Marty Murphy, come on up.
My wife Wanda, we're both on the New Ross Trail Society, and most of you probably know that Ruby's Trail is on our property, and
Yep.
again, we're members of the Trail Society, so we manage the whole trail system in New Ross. Want to have a seat? Table here has changed a little bit since we were here. I'm not here to ask for more money, Andre, not today. I'll give you a little break right from the beginning. The tables has changed a bit, and Tom and Clarissa, we met. They came out to New Ross and did a tour of the trails a few weeks ago, so it's nice to have them there. So I guess no.
Oh, we're two summer students, yeah.
Pardon me?
Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, yeah, you guys.
Counselors, yeah. So Yeah, that was a good opportunity to show them, and they toured other places in New Ross too. Tina was their escort. And actually, my message today, I said I'm not here to ask for money, surprise, is one of gratitude and positivity. And we also want to give an update, but mingled through all this update is a message of gratitude and positivity. We came here asking for a $10,000 budgeted maintenance grant for our New Ross trails. The first attempt, well, it didn't go so well, and then but a year later we came back and it was approved. Actually, everybody around the table voted for it, so we were really touched by that. And after that unanimous motion, I had said to Tina, someday I want to go back and let them know what we did with that money, so that will come up here this morning as well. So it's our second year of having that $10,000. Last year we had a great maintenance person, David Meister. He does interviews on the CBC about New Ross, and this year then he had to go back to work. But this year we got another young person in New Ross and starting a new company, and he is just doing an amazing job. And he's doing everything we ask, and he's great with the public when they come along and have questions. So we're very happy that we can hire good people. And again, it's because of the $10,000 maintenance grant, because Juan and I used to do a lot of this work, and hey, you know, yeah, it was a heavy burden. So and then on top of that, there were other grants, not just from here, but from other sources that that we could put toward the trail system that allowed for other updates last year, which improved accessibility. And we also got to finish spending the flood disaster money last year for future proofing and repairs. So now we're going to go down a little list of thank yous in addition to those just made. With the grants, the flexibility of these municipal grants, it's very reasonable. The timeline, look, if we can't get a contractor and it sort of slips into another year, yeah, we keep you guys posted as to what's going on, but you know, there's no gun to our heads that, you know, this has to be done and at a certain time, and that is so wonderful. And sometimes, like with the flood money, we already had a grant for some trail work from here, but when the flood money came, we thought, well, maybe we can allocate some of that flood money for what the grant from here was for, and then we were still able to use the money from here for trail work, but we were able to take advantage. So it's that flexibility that we thank you for, and we will not take advantage of it, because when we file our reports, everything is documented. So, and the applications are very simple. One of the members of our Trail Society at our meeting the other night, provincial grant, oh, what I have to go through to get that $1,000, it's just, and then in the end, you know, it's, and again, we're just volunteers, so we really appreciate that. Another little thing here, it just sticks out in my mind. A few years ago, we wanted an outhouse on Ruby's Trail, you know, parents and older people up there in the hill. Mentioned it to Tina, can we have a toilet up there? Well, I'll talk down. Next day, I think, it was only 1 or 2 days later, the outhouse appeared up there, and it's been there every year since. And I know that might not sound like much, but it means a lot to the people who need to use it. So, yeah. And the municipal staff support, it's, won't mention names, but whenever we need assistance, whether it's to promote an event or technical advice or whatever, they're there for us. Just make a phone call, send an email, and they're there for us. And also thank you for municipal staff for helping us coordinate the flood disaster money. I mean, that was a lot of money, and we were surprised that we were allowed to get in on it, again, where our trails are on private lands, but, wow, especially the Popner Trail, you know, a new bridge was built, they gravelled the whole thing, and we also used some of the money that we got directly, but another batch came in that, on that trail, that we didn't have any direct dealing with, but it's a huge improvement. Now, on our end, what else are we doing to show that we're responsible, not just with the $10,000, but any monies that you guys give us? We ask a conservation officer in March to come and just give us a little boost with making sure the trails are sort of not being used by, let's say, people with bad judgment, with maybe with reckless ATV drivers or whatnot. So the conservation officer came, we did a post on Facebook that there was an 11,000 post reach on that with the conservation officer posing by our trails, and just a little warm reminder, you know, preventative actions here that, you know, we're on top of things before anything happens. So we did that. Financially on our end, our books are gone over. H&R Block in New Minas, they do our taxes. They also have a little business segment there, and so they go over our books, do our financial statement, and they make sure, they want a list of all the grants that we get, and they make sure that the money that we got is spent where we said it was going to be spent. So we're quite proud of that. Cost us $400 a year, but they're well done. And we also have Facebook pages. New Ross Trail Society has one. Ruby's Trail has one. And I just took a picture of some people yesterday on a horse on Ruby's Trail. And my goodness, I asked if it was okay to post it. And it was incredible. By last night when I went, actually this morning when I got up, it had a 4.8K post reach. So it's people do pay attention to what goes on these trails, and again, we're keeping these sites, Facebook pages relevant, and that's to promote these trails. That's part of our obligation too. You give us the money, let's see that people use them. Last year on August 3rd, and we had told you this was going to happen last time we were here, the International Christmas Tree Conference was here. I know you guys, I think, sponsored that as well, but one of their field tours was on Ruby's Trail, and 3 tour buses came, and so there were, of course, Americans there, people from all over the world, and I was told by a member of the Christmas Tree Council that that was one of the highlights of their tour, what went on there at Ruby's Trail. They just, for people in the Christmas tree industry, to have something as positive as that trail going through a Christmas tree farm, it sends a wonderful message. So, our trail system, in this case Ruby's Trail, is pairing up with industry in our county. And very early on, the Christmas Tree Council was there for us. I think, Alan, you got a copy of the Journal with a front page story about Ruby's Trail, and so they've been there right from the beginning. Last fall, CBC Radio 1 did a national story on Ruby's Trail, how it's an important part of community life, and so Ruby's Trail represented Atlantic Canada. We were happy about that. Again, very positive spin, national attention for our trail. The other trails, the Ladders Lane, we have programs on them. There's a ferry walk every year, Ross Farm Trail, a 5K run, and Ruby's Trail, 3 things every year, Mobility Day. We had a gospel concert last year, we're doing that again, and Christmas time, a few weeks before Christmas, we have a celebration on the hill. People walk up the trail in the dark and sing and hot chocolate. So the Twig House 2 years ago, and I know most of you are aware of the Twig House, how that has, again, a partnership with the Nova Scotia Christmas Tree Council. They wanted a Twig House somewhere. well, a little twig house. Wanda built a great big twig house, and but it's certainly made it another reason for it to be a go-to place. On October 23rd of this year, the Nova Scotia Christmas Tree Council, they have the free services of a TikTok influencer. So they contacted me to ask if they could come to Ruby's Trail again to send that positive message out there about the Christmas tree industry and all the good things that that can go on on a tree farm. So that's. Oh, I forgot my name. I'm on target though. We partnered with the Legion, New Ross Legion. The entrance to Ruby's to Trailhead is at the Legion, and they repaid the parking lot a few weeks ago, and they improved the section by Ruby's Trail. Again, that partnership. The Legion is a great neighbor to have there, and so we were happy about that. Now, we have a new project coming up, a district council grant from you people, and thank you, Tina, for suggesting we apply for this. We are going to have a healing garden / wind farm. Now, the healing, it's a combination, so we're going to have one road going to both. The healing garden is for grieving families. You can go there and just a quiet place, and if you want to drop something or just sit there and think, and Wanda and Judy O'Leary will be working on that. And the wind phone. Now, if you don't know what a wind phone is, they're all over the world. It's part of a network. And again, Judy O'Leary suggested this, and she's going to donate the phone. Now, with a wind phone, you get on that phone, there's going to be a physical phone there. You can talk to a dead relative, a dead pet, or whatever. It's very healing. Now, you might say, well, that's not possible. but then again, I say prove that it isn't. But anyway, but that will be there, and again, $1,600 from here. Westford, they like the idea. They got a check from them for $3,000, and there will be some private donors as well, gravel and whatnot. So that the wind fountain, and again, this on a trail on a tree farm, it's a nice fit. We have
How much
it in a
does
nice
it cost to put a wind phone in?
Pardon me?
How much does it cost to put a wind phone in?
Well, the main thing is to make the road accessible,
Oh,
because
okay.
there was a little
It's a
swampy section,
okay.
but we need a private section. So, but she's going to donate the phone, and the guards were going to decorate it and whatnot. So
I just didn't think the bill would be very high monthly.
Well, again, to get the people in there without tripping and
Yeah,
just
I
to
know,
make it
but
presentable.
It's creating a spot.
Yeah, and so that's why it cost a bit to get it, and but Westford, they were very on board with this, and the lady there.
Pretty unique item. Yeah.
It's unique, and I can see why they'd want to be a part of it as well. So even the truck driver that day, when we're looking at the job, I said, "You're going to think we're ridiculous." And, no, I like it. And before he left again, "Marty, that is a good idea," he said. So it appeals. So and on to something else now. We're trying to set up a meeting with the new director at the Ross Farm. The trail's on their property, and I mean, they do a lot of the management there, but we want to partner with them, of course, and get that a little more solidified, who does what there. A new director, and he sounds like a pretty good guy to talk to. And the $70,000 survey of the Old Annapolis Road, again, we're not directly involved with that, but what a wonderful message that's sending to the trail system in New Ross, and for the future, going forward, expansion. And we're also excited that the Gold River Bridge, again, we look at it from the perspective, we are part of the whole network in the municipality, and so a little, maybe more costly, but hey, it's so important, and we support the making that bridge functional, the interconnectivity. So we're part of it all. So again, so that message of gratitude and positivity, and I know I rushed, but I didn't want to go over time. And two more quick things. A special thank you to Tina. You like your municipal staff, always there. If something comes through our heads, you know, she's there, and she's feisty, and but yeah, she really moves our community and our trails forward. And on a personal level, as I had said, Ruby's Trail is on our property. And Wanda just wanted to make a few comments, and that will be the end of the presentation about her input and how nice it is having a public trail and your support to make that happen. So go ahead.
Well, I get a little nervous about this stuff because it doesn't come easy for me, but I had to.
He's pretty good at it.
Yeah, he's darn good. That's why I leave it to him most of the time, but I just wanted to add it a little bit. Ruby's Trail is a big part of our hearts. We've put a lot of time and love into making it very special, a place that has touched many people's hearts. Now we have the opportunity to start the Healing Garden in memory of our other granddaughter, with the help of the Chester Municipality and other sources. It's a special place on Ruby's Trail to help those who are grieving. So again, we would like to thank you all of you, for helping us maintain and improve our trails. It was very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And her words are not hollow. At home, I see her loading up the trailer on the ATV with a load of bark or topsoil and digging holes. So she puts her heart and soul into it.
No, and I guess that just from all of us, it was thank you very much for all the effort you put in, because it's an enormous effort, yeah. You know, and letting them use your property and all of the time that you put into it. And I didn't know you were so technically inclined to do all this, your technical stuff, you know, putting it all on Facebook and Instagram and this, that, and everything else, but.
It's not just me. My stepson, her son, and
the kids are good at that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we thank you very much for everything you do, and we're glad we can help you. And I know Tina has some remarks she wants to make.
Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, no, I had to wait for the.
Mike.
So, thank you, actually, Trail Society for making us look good, really, because for an investment of $10,000, really, in terms of the fact of our trail network throughout the entire municipality, this is part of the trail network throughout the municipality. And I know I've heard those words from other councillors as well over the last couple of years. So we are very excited. Again, you had mentioned about the Old Annapolis Road. So we've got some things kind of in our vision and so on. A lot of things jumped out at me during your presentation, and that's volunteerism. You amaze me. The New Ross Trail Society amazed me. Many people amaze me in the municipality, but you certainly do. And you've mentioned what we all strive for, and that's partnerships. You've mentioned a number of examples of partnerships, financial, HR, and so on. You talked about the Healing Garden, and so I rudely tried to find an email from a couple years ago that you had sent me of a capture in the guest book. And I want to mention that because the difference that Ruby's Trail, for sure, and the potential for the Healing Garden, we can only guess, is actually making. I want to read from the guest book from a family from Centre, Nova Scotia. So that's in Lunenburg County, obviously. We all know where Centre is. So, and I'm going to try to read it. This place truly is taking a blessed spot in my heart every time we need a reset. We come hike Ruby's Trail and breathe some fresh air and enjoy some true family time and think of all our family members that have passed but are still in our hearts with us everywhere we go every day. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful place with us. And I think that was one of them, was the mom or the dad. And then in addition on that page, you'll see this comment I love this beautiful place, and the guest book is wonderful. Keep up with the good work. Bless Ruby's heart. Rest in peace. And it's a signature of a young fellow who's in grade 6. So he signed it with his family. And then there's another one that's a little messier, so I think they might be a little younger, I don't know. The work that was done, with some help from a parent. The work that was done to this trail after the huge rain was amazing. Our family has found this place to be in our hearts when we are lost or have lost loved ones. We find the painted rocks, taking the walks and laughing together has genuinely brought us closer together to heal together. And then there's a little signature of a dog print. So I think that they had a dog with them that day too. So that's just one of many, many, many signatures in the guest book at Ruby's Trail. So that's all for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for, oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
for
coming
having
in
us.
for all you do. Take care.
Didn't cost you 5 cents, Andre.
Oh, get him to give you 20 bucks. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next public appointment because we're running really late. David and Lisa?
Good morning.
Morning. You've probably gotten to hear more this morning than you planned on.
It's been actually enlightening.
That's good.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having us today. You want to start?
Yeah, I'll just start. David Murdoch. I chair the Senior Safety in Lunenburg County. And I guess my role here is to support Lisa and to answer any questions you have about the funding that we receive. You're very generous. Mm-hmm. We receive $10,000, $655 from the Municipality of Chester. All of the municipalities in the county contribute, as well as does the United Way of Lunenburg County, now the Lunenburg United Way of the Maritimes. Mm-hmm. And also the town of Bridgewater contributes a significant in-kind amount and supports Lisa through the Bridgewater Police Service. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Lisa and she can speak about the work she does. And I'm here to answer any questions about the funding or anything else.
Thank you.
So we skipped a slide, but that's okay. Or did we not? Maybe we did? It was just the second one? Okay, that's okay. So, there it is. So again, I want to extend another thank you because it's not just the support, the financial support, but it's the being able to call any one of you or anyone that's working with the municipality and have a conversation about an older adult in the community and any other struggles that they might be having and how we can figure out how to fix it, improve it, make it better. So it's through those community partnerships, through businesses, municipalities, RCMP, Bridgewater Police, that it makes it all happen. It takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to look after our valued and important older adults in our community. They have a lot of language and experience that we don't want to lose out on, and we need to have respected. So what does that really look like? So there's a lot of home visits, as you see from the monthly reports. The goal is to have older adults stay safer in their homes longer, and that looks different for different people. So connecting them and their families to the relevant resources or resources that make sense to them is an important part of the process. And that means being able to adapt to the changing needs. In the last 6 months to a year, there's been a lot of different changes in availability of funding, availability of basic needs, housing, food, medications. I need my slides, I can't help it. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure who I was supposed to give the wink to. Wink, wink, okay. Good, awesome. So we have programs within the program of Lunenburg County Senior Safety, and one of them is the Vial of Life, which I think most of you know about. So that's ongoing. We do elder abuse awareness presentations, to invite conversations. If it's in a conversation that's in your mind and you're being aware of it, you're spotting it, making a difference. Scams and frauds, because there's no scams and frauds going on, not at all. Being preventative with the scams and frauds are very important because you don't get your money back. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get your money back. So being preventative in this topic is, and we do the Senior Safety Academy as well. We do different presentations, like one-off presentations of different topics throughout the county, but we also do the Senior Safety Academy, which is 6 sessions, 6 weeks, over 6 weeks, one afternoon, usually 2 presenters in the afternoon with a break in between on topics that older adults in the community have identified they want to know more about. So that could be Alzheimer's, Caregivers Nova Scotia. We bring people in that are experts in their own fields to share that knowledge. So we also do system navigation. So sometimes systems can be a little tricky. Maybe it has to do with they're not connected to the internet. Maybe it's a literacy concern or a barrier. Or just, I've looked at some of the different procedures to do certain things, and it's like, yeah, no, I need to get help on this one too. So system navigation can be quite a barrier for some folks, so trying to navigate that for them. Identifying and advocacy, so identifying gaps within the community that I'm not identifying, that's something that older adults are coming to me and saying this is what they need, and we can't find the services for them. Building and growing our partnerships is also important, and gathering information and getting the resources out there to the people in the hands that need them the most. And to do that, we have the helping tree with the resources. So my predecessor did a fantastic job of collecting the bulk of this information. It's a living entity. It's found on our webpage. So as you see changes that need to be made, I don't actively monitor things that are being changed on that because that would be a full-time job. But once I know about it, then I can go ahead and get the ticket to make the changes. Spread it, print it off, give it to people who don't have access to it. Please share it. It's resources within Lunenburg County that pertain to older adults in the community, and it's very valuable. Phone books, directories, if you're not connected to the internet, these contacts can be a lifeline for some folks. So ongoing presentations like today, or the Senior Safety Academy, or pop-ups. So sometimes you'll see me in a bank lobby talking about scams and fraud preventions, trying to get ahead of it. Maybe you might see me at their health center talking about elder abuse or about Lunenburg County Senior Safety in itself. There's quite a large ask from community to do presentations. Different groups like, say, the Parkinson's Society or the Legion, different groups approach. It seems like when I do a presentation, I'll get an ask for 2 or 3 more in the next couple of months. It's good that people want that information. It's not something that I don't feel like I'm pushing the information on it. They're actively engaged in it. They're asking for the information, so that's good. We also have a seniors mental health wellness toolkit. It's not quite printed off yet, but it will be soon, hopefully. It's been a labor labor, labor-intensive project with double-checking, fact-checking information to make sure that we're getting the right information out there. But it's resources that's in our area that makes sense for mental wellness. It's preventative pieces, but if things are going a little astray, how do we reach out? Who do we reach out to? What's their process like? So it's a bit of a kit, which is nice. We also have the Home Navigator book, management book, and this has been developed. It's like the Vial of Life, but it adds to it. So when we are not at our best and we have to rely on other people, surgery, dementia, whatever, if your helpers know how to help you best by knowing when that garbage, when's garbage day, when does it go out? Where's the shut-off valve? What plumber do you use? It's those types of things that help alleviate some of those stresses. It has emergency preparedness planning. So it's looking at what do you need to shelter in place? What do you need if you have to evacuate? Who's going to help you? Because we need to be self-sufficient. So that's encouraged within this book. That you can't wait for the first responders to come and save you. What's your plan? And what do you need to execute that plan, and making sure you're thinking about pets, medications, all of those things. And then we are big promoters of WEAD, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. June 15th every year, we collaborate with the youth at the YMCA. They help with ribbons. They have an event on the same day as well, and they end up taking ribbons and passing out and having conversations. So we have the intergenerational relationship happening, which is just phenomenal. They've done it 2 years in a row. They've asked to do it next year again. So I think that's lovely. It's important that we remember not just on one day, though. Right? And that's kind of the message that I'm trying to get out. So what's happening here? What's the activity here? So home visits, answering referrals, answering questions. Sometimes it's an email or a phone call. Sometimes things are very quick. Presentations have happened, and including the Safety Academy up in New Ross. We outgrew the space after the very first day. We had to shift to the 40s Community Center, which thankfully came to our rescue, which was amazing. We've had many presentations at our health center. I've chatted with Roger just recently, and we've got plans for doing more in the not too distant future. And surrounding areas. So there's lots of activity happening. So the types of referrals that I see are very varied. Scams and fraud, definitely. Elder abuse concerns, elder abuse around power of attorney papers, unsafe housing or people who are unhoused. That is also that's a growing number. Hoarding, clutter galore sort of thing. That one's a hard one. We really need mental health to be partnering with us when we're addressing the hoarding, because it's more than just stuff. But it's, yeah. Tenancy issues, that goes with the housing piece, I guess, and resources, food security, finding that little bit of money to get that extra mile. Looking for money to pay for a handyman, or even finding a handyman, that type of thing. Transportation, huge. That's always an issue. It comes up in every nonprofit. Transportation is always an issue. So how do you make a referral? Give me a call.
Yeah.
Give me a call. Email me. I have a referral form. I stopped trying to send it out to everybody because people just called or emailed anyway, so it's just, okay, we'll just do it this way. It works best that way. So And that's kind of where we're at. That's what we do. It's the day. Any questions, concerns?
It's not questions, just to thank you, because there's a lot of people out there that need the service you provide, and we're grateful that they have it. So,
Very passionate about what I do, if you haven't been able to tell.
No, yeah.
I really love the work, and I love the interaction with the older adults, and every conversation I have, I learn something new.
Well, they're facing more and more challenges every day. so.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh,
I
sorry.
will-
On-
I'll just say, you know, you came at an interesting time, and you spoke a little later in the day, so there might have been some idea that sometimes this council is not willing to fund groups or organizations or studies or whatever, but, you know, we receive reports on what your organization does and the activities that it undertakes, and, you know, we can see the value in the work that you do. So there's never been a question of value with senior safety program that you've put together. Most residents don't know much about the senior safety program, which is probably, we need to do a better job ourselves as a municipality of promoting it. You know, we try, but it's definitely
Don't do too good of a job promoting it.
But the need is great, and
The need is great. Right now, I have 77 active clients,
no doubt.
so.
I mean, I've said it before, your organization saves lives. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah. That was a team effort. That was a team effort.
Yeah. You know, I would say that yours is one of the few regional organizations that I really feel actually works well. We don't have a lot of those success stories to point to actually here. So, you know, I'm just saying, you know, and I can probably speak for all of us, that we're really grateful for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I would like to say a couple of things.
Okay.
The first is that we have a very active working board, and Tina is your representative. We've just had our AGM, and as a result, we lost some people off of our board. We did secure another individual that's going to join us when we meet again in September. I made an effort within this municipality to find someone else to sit on the board. I live in East River. I won't last forever. And in fact, I've told the board that I'd like to step down. And the result was that I'm still here. And I will be for a year or two more. But in the same way that Tina suggested to me that I might be interested in being involved in this, I'm also asking other councillors to think about people that might be interested in serving on our board. We have a board manual that will orient new people to what we do, and we meet monthly, except in the summers. So it's a collegial atmosphere, and I would say a very almost sociable event, our board meetings, but we do have serious business to take care of. The second thing I'd like to say is one of those serious businesses is our funding. The province, which I failed to mention at the beginning, is a supporter. They give us $25,000 a year. The councils combined contribute more. And that $25,000 from the province has been coming on a contract, a 3-year contract, which ends this year. And we don't know what's going to happen next year, but it's time for more money to come from the province. The municipalities have stepped up, led by United Way, actually, who said, we'll put more money in if you can get some more from the councils, and every council stepped up. We really, really appreciate that. Now it's time to go to the province in some way and make it known that 25 grand is not enough. So I'm just saying, this is one of the jobs that our board has, and we need one or two other people from this region, and we need to roll up our sleeves and find a way to convince the province to give us more money. Anyway.
Tina?
Thank you. So, a couple of things, and I'll start with the most recent that we just touched on, and that's your last point in terms of the province and the funding. So I have brought that message here to this table as part of my monthly or every other month report, if you will, touched on it. And I know that I had discussions as well with Tara, the CAO and the warden, because of, again, one of the meetings that we had as board members. I know that Chief Feener was speaking with his CAO and his mayor in terms of the town of Bridgewater and others around the table. So we were all preparing ourselves, if you will, for the mayors and wardens meetings that take place. So I'm not sure where we've all landed on that, but I will actually just continue those discussions. But I know that they're still happening. They are happening, and the position of this council is in support of what you're just putting on the table. Absolutely, 100%, in terms of the province and the 25,000 that's been the contribution for more than just this past 3 years contract, but before the 3 years as well.
Like
so
5,
it's been
yeah.
25 for a long time,
Yeah.
a long time, and we can understand the numbers because we get those monthly reports, as Councillor Vino had indicated, right, in terms of the active files, the new referrals, and so on that come in every month as part of our package. One thing that I didn't do, and I'm going to admit it now, is I forgot that today was almost a council meeting and it's committee day, and I did not circulate, so I will do that at the end of the month, because it's still going to be July, the June report. So I will do that at the next council. And as part of that, I want to also actually include not just the monthly report, but the 6-page annual report, because it then gets in our council package, and those members of the public that have signed up for our council packages will receive that as well. So that the more we can do to get the word and the numbers and the awareness and your mandate and testimonials that are included in that report, like all of that is important. So I'll do that next council meeting. I apologize to council here. So the last thing would be is when we met a couple of weeks ago with the two councillors that were elected to this team last fall, we met. Lisa Bennett and the three of us as councillors met a couple of weeks ago, which was wonderful to introduce everybody to each other. You shared with us this just general brochure, and I said that I would bring, I asked for the rest of them if I could, and so I will circulate that for councillors just to have in their desk drawer, if nothing else, right? And I do believe we have these downstairs in our lobby, and if we don't, I'll make sure that we put some down there, and I think they are down there, but yeah, that's it for now. But just, thank you, that's it, thank you.
Thank you.
For everything that,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think one way or another, we need a ever so slight break so people can do wash. Yeah, I know you're leaving.
But just before we go to break, I'd like to ask council and staff, if we could move, oh, sorry.
You're on.
Yeah, if we could move 12.10 up when we come
We're
back from
moving
break.
it up to the very next agenda item.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's what I intended.
Okay, great. Thank you.
live. Call the meeting back to order. We're on 12.10. Active transportation update.
Need the mic.
All right. What?
Fred, you need the mic.
Oh, he needs
Sorry.
it. I was gonna say, I got one, I think.
Advertise this, yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
All right. All right, current situation, the Gold River Bridge closed, as did New Ross Phase 1, 40s to the fire hall, and both are over budget.
Yep.
They're part of the ICIP group of projects, and we did change the scope when we first saw some of these budgets. This is February 9th, 2023. So we did get a revised scope for that, and we revised our budgets, and we assigned an agreement to complete those projects. And on the second page, it goes through those projects, which ones are complete. The two Hubbards ones close next week, and two have closed, and that small section of George and Western Shore, we have to do those yet, that small section yet. So anyway, we did the agreement. It's a major funding partner. You know, we of course want to complete those projects. As far as discussion, the Gold River Bridge, we did our due diligence checks. Jewel Mac Contracting Limited is low bidder. We have received good reference checks on that. Everything else works out. And it's low, but it leaves us about just under $900,000 short with the budget.
Yeah.
Dexter and Cumberland both bid on the New Ross sidewalk. Dexter has done most of our sidewalks since I've been here. They do good work, and they're also around $900,000 over the budget. Right. So then we looked at the remaining projects, which is the two Hubbard's projects, that one in Western Shore. We feel they're going to be over budget as well, but there'll be a future report to council. We'll bring that, talk over, we'll see what the situation is and so on. And again, although everything is supposed to be wrapped up by 2026, we'll ask for, one of the options we'll be asking for an extension for another year, right? So we can complete those projects, right? So that, an extension shouldn't be a problem. We'll have a lot of that spent anyway. But, yes, but revising that scope could be difficult. And Tim has done a great breakdown on our funding and so on. But to remain within budget for this fiscal year, we're recommending that two of the sidewalk projects come off and be put off for further debate for future years, which is the Commons Road sidewalk and the New Ross Phase 2. Right, so we go through the options there. I'll be happy to go through it all word for word, but I'm sure everybody read the report, and I'm open for discussions. Tim and Tara worked on this as well. They can also help as needed. Right.
Okay, Della.
Well, I'd just like to speak on the Gold River Bridge. This has been like a 3-year, and it's part of our trails, and it's, I mean, we basically have no option, really. I mean, you got to continue on with the trail. You can't stop the trail and go river. We all know the cost of everything's just gone bazooka.
Crazy.
So, you know, I'm prepared to go ahead with that part of it. I just, we have to do it. It's one of those things that have to be done. I mean, trails are a big part of our recreation in the municipality, not just for ATVs or walking, whatever, biking. So, are we voting for that? Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Can we vote, are we voting one at a time, or what?
It's up to you. We would like a motion for each one, just so it's clear on what the direction is for each.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm done, thank you.
Yeah. Gina?
Thank you. So to start, I might have other questions, but I'm just going to jump in here with this. So the, in terms of the Gold River Bridge, certainly agree with you. It's it's not just part of our trail network, but it's part of our active transportation thoughts, plans, visioning, and so on. And so that's, will open the door for me to discuss the idea of taking the two possibly off the table to future years and for further debate. That would be the Commons Road as well as Phase 2 of the New Ross sidewalk. So that's just part of our
That's
active
correct.
transportation, all of that, however you want to word it or slice it up or whatever. But to focus right now on the Gold River Bridge. So in terms of the bidder, excuse me, am I pronouncing it right, Joel Mack?
That's how I would,
Okay,
whether it
Joel
is
Mack.
true or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joel Mack, I'll just say it fast, right?
Sure.
So Joel Mack. So you said references have checked out.
Yes.
Any concerns?
Not from any of the references. Yeah.
Not from any of the references?
Yeah.
Any, okay,
Yeah, one was quite glowing, actually.
good, excellent, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. In terms of the money piece around where we're talking and landing on who's contributing what, and we've got monies for demolition, $1 million and all of that, all
Yeah,
that stuff, right?
yeah,
So I did ask on, because I'm glad I brought my Gold River Bridge file. On January the 23rd, when we were talking about it, I did ask around other potential funders / funding or grant opportunities, such as Heritage Canada and ACOA, being federal opportunities, and provincially, not DMHC, but CCH, so Communities, Culture, and Heritage. Because again, we're talking heritage, here, aren't we not? Heritage? So where did we land on looking into and finding out the criteria and the details around those other levels of funding possibilities for this bridge project?
We have made applications.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Which one and how much and all that?
Can we, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
So we've made application to a fund.
A fund?
But we have not heard back from them.
When's it close? And
So
when's the
it
decision?
doesn't have a date for closure. We're expecting a decision anytime now.
Excellent, very
I
good.
would
Yeah.
think that,
Very
yeah,
good.
for ministerial, yeah.
Ministerial, okay,
Yeah.
so
Today would have been
federally
great.
or provincially?
Yeah.
Federally,
Yeah, right,
fantastic,
yeah.
because again, these federal levels of government should be involved, knowing other bridge projects across Nova Scotia.
Yeah, we made a
So-
good case, I feel.
Well, they'd have to have a reason to say no, because
Yeah.
other projects have received federal funding in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So, okay, good, I know we're still talking, we're not
Yeah.
putting a motion yet, so.
And that was, Jonathan can correct me if I'm wrong, and that would be, we were able to put that on top of the federal funding we already received through ICIP toward this project. We may have to juggle a little bit overall, but I
Yeah.
think we're good.
Exactly. Okay. Sorry, I just have one more question while I'm on it. I don't have anything in my notes here in terms of the totality of where we are right now with the Gold River Bridge, specific to the consultation that we are doing with Mi'kmaq.
It's my understanding through CCTH, we met all our requirements.
Okay.
But we'll continue to keep any party that's interested in the loop, for sure.
Absolutely,
All
wonderful.
right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
especially when it's commissioned, assuming it does get passed. So, yeah, great opportunity. Right.
Thank you.
I think Andre was next.
Yep.
What was that? I think Tom was actually next.
Oh,
if you want to be
okay,
fair.
Tom, works for me.
Sorry.
Thank you, Warden
Councillor
Weber.
Brenner.
Just clarity, Fred, so we would be putting the Commons project off for a year or so?
That would be our recommendation, and that would be debate for council, of course, for next year.
And I have to express that part of my district has always said that they feel like they keep losing and losing and losing, and I do understand that, and I do appreciate that, but I do also understand the bigger picture. And I feel that this is another bit of a bite, but I got some thoughts to think about this one, because it's they get built up and then we kind of let them down a bit, and then we build them up again and let them down, so I'm frustrated with that one, to be honest. Thank you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but we're trying to bring, a balanced solution back for debate.
Yeah. Andre?
Now, let's talk about that a little bit. So, I too am concerned. It doesn't lie within my district, but I recognize the importance of the project. And if we think about, like, for example, the common sidewalk, or the Phase 2 to the fairgrounds in New Ross, the debate about the merit, I feel like we've already had that, and the debate whether it has merit or not, that would remain unchanged in 1 year from now. I can't imagine a scenario in which those areas would be depopulated or the transportation need would be somehow alleviated, in which we would no longer require a sidewalk. So I don't think there's any requirement to have a debate about the merit of the projects. In terms of the source of the funding, as I understand it, those sidewalks were intended to be funded through borrowing and through our reserves.
The CCBF, both.
Right.
Gas tax or the CCBF funding and
right.
borrowing.
So unless in the next 6 months the heavens opened and money descends from above, which I'm not sure what the likelihood of that is, then that will add. Then I don't know that we'll have other new information then to debate whether we proceed or not. You know, if we're planning to borrow for these projects in a year, then why don't we just borrow and do the projects if this council feels there's merit in the projects? You know, that would be my position at this point, unless somebody has something new to add that will change my mind.
Tina?
Thank you. Yeah, great points, Councillor Vino, and thank you, Councillor Bremner, in terms of the thoughts around, yeah, it's true, it is true. So, yeah, I'm struggling with the idea of putting them off to future years and further debate. Just quoting you, right?
fine.
And that's fair, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's fair. And so, again, I really especially appreciate, Councillor Vino, your comments around the fact of where we were sourcing those dollars to start with, and where we would be in 6 months or a year. So I really do appreciate that. And I'm going to go back to the totality right now, the Gold River Bridge, in terms of that recommended motion number 1. And so we're possibly recommending or going to be discussing in the amount of, right now, increasing the overall project budget to $7.6 million. And that's just for what we're talking about now. That's not including the investment that we've already made to date, right?
No, that's everything to date.
Oh, everything to date?
Yeah.
So going back to 21 with Able and the engineering, like all of that, okay, because I'm.
I don't know about that study, because that was covered under another fiscal
Sure, oh, no,
year,
but it's the totality of the budget for
all
Gold River
the,
Bridge.
yeah, that's come along, yeah.
So for my residents and my taxpayers, which include the entire municipality, the totality of the Gold River Bridge, right, is what I'm trying to, and I will, I'm keeping meticulous notes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we just want to cover unknowns. We don't want to keep coming back.
No,
We will if
I
we have to,
appreciate
but we're
that.
going to do, it's our best effort and
Yeah.
prediction
Oh,
right
yeah,
now.
since day one, we've put forward our best effort in terms of our estimates. I remember that well. So I'm on the side right now, if there's no reason to put those, if there's not a real reason to put those projects that we're discussing potentially putting off for a year, if there's no reason to not do them now, I'm interested in looking at doing those now.
I think the question is that we didn't budget as much money as what it's
Right.
gonna cost us.
Which is-
So I guess we'd probably want Tim to say, well, what's the impact on the
Uh-huh.
overall budget
Yeah.
for our financial situation?
Exactly.
So we've had those discussions, and so the recommendation, if council wants to proceed with these, all of the projects, and keep the 2 non-ICIP sidewalks, so the Chester Commons and New Ross Phase 2, on the books for this year and tender those, then what we would do is fund the shortfall through borrowing.
Yeah.
We've looked at trying to do that through other reserve funds, and it's just, borrowing is the best option right now. Yeah.
But what's the overall impact, I guess? Yeah.
Tim, is there?
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just.
That
I'd be-
impact would,
be
I
crazy
believe,
not to
that
ask.
impact wouldn't come this year, it would come in future years, once we
Well, it would-
complete the
it
projects
would-
and need to do the
yeah.
borrowing.
Yeah, so, as Tara just sort of mentioned, and what Fred was talking about, the delay of those other 2 sidewalk projects was sort of intended as a way to free up, in particular, the CCBF portion of those budgets. basically through the extent of the capital, the 5-year capital plan, we've basically earmarked almost everything in reserves over the next 5 years. Not to the dollar, but like we've got all of them down to a fairly low amount. So in order to use anything other than debt, it would have to be reprioritized from something else. So that's where the idea for those 2 sidewalk projects being deferred, and then we could free up that gas tax funding from those. If we were to not defer any projects, then just the overages would need to be covered through additional debt beyond what was already budgeted.
So that's all I want to know is what does the additional debt mean to you as our finance director?
Well, so it would just mean that, there'd be an impact in those debt payments over the likely 25 years or so that we would borrow for a project like a sidewalk or a bridge.
So next year's budget would just have more debt?
Operating,
Yeah, absolutely. There'd be more, interest charges, and it would defer the costs over multiple years as opposed to drawing it from reserves.
Okay. I forget. Who was Sharon was first?
Councillor
Yeah,
Church.
okay, Sharon.
Yeah, I guess you know the answer to that. I'm just concerned about our debt service ratio. If we get, too far, that things are getting much tighter. I don't know how much we can borrow.
We have lots of room.
I don't understand that. I mean, if I had to say pick one, I know that they're all going to get done. It's just that I think the Gold River Bridge has been on the radar for longer than the 2 sidewalks, and then, the 2 sidewalks.
Well,
So
it's closed up. That's the biggest issue with it.
if we had to, do one, my thought would be do the one that's been in the hopper first. Not that they're both, all not important. And if you feel that we can financially do it, we maybe do all 3. I have no feelings. It's not in my district, so to postpone the sidewalks a year, it doesn't matter to me like it would matter to the councillor in that particular district. It's all something that needs to be done for the municipality. It would be no different if it was in Hubbard's, but it's just all about the financing and, debt service ratio and whether you feel it's a prudent thing to do.
Yeah, as Tara sort of just mentioned now, our existing debt currently is almost entirely focused on assets that generate their own revenue, landfill, the wind turbine. So there is significant capacity for increasing debt on capital purchases. It just that, so right now, there's not really a concern with adding a couple $1 million perhaps for some of these overages. It would just need to be, something that we'd be more attuned to going forward as we start to take on more of this non-generative debt. And just make sure that as the future plans come, that there's a lot more future assessment on that potential.
It may impact what we can do in terms of new projects next year or the year after.
In a similar way, like we have very strong reserve balances, and for many, many years, it's always just sort of been the backup. We can fund it from reserves. And then this year we get into a very significant capital plan, which kind of allocates all those reserves. So now we're in a point where it's not just, there's always money in the reserve. It's, well, there is, but we've already earmarked it, so we need to be a little more intentional about it. And we'll be approaching a similar kind of change to how we approach debt.
Yeah. Andre, I think, and then Tina, and then we should move on.
I'm just gonna say that, I've been hanging around here again for a long time. I know that in terms of borrowing, we're in a very strong position. The only times we've ever shown up on the radar of the province in terms of borrowing as compared with many other units is largely because we have a lot of debt associated with the landfill, which generates revenue, as you said. So,
And they don't count that.
we could potentially even spin that off in its own utility or whatever, and it wouldn't even show up on our balance sheet. So, nobody here is debating the merit of the projects, and should we proceed next year because our CCF, our BF, reserve is already allocated for other projects, we will be proceeding on borrowing unless money descends from the heavens, which I don't know, I'm not holding my breath out for that. So I would move that we move forward on all projects, barring some crazy, you'll come back obviously with the quote from the tenders when these 2 final sidewalks are tendered, unless something radical happens. I would move that we move forward on all projects.
We have a seconder, seconded by Tom. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried.
Thank you.
That's what we're doing.
Thanks for all your work, Greg. Tim, thank you. Big project.
Okay, so now I think I'm back up to 12.4.
Still going this?
Public Works Capital Project status.
Yeah, just following Tim and his department updates.
It's pretty similar stuff.
Yeah. And with us, we were encouraged to pick a format. We'll see which formats stick and arrange accordingly for the next quarter. District highlights, we're looking at Otter Point wastewater treatment plant upgrade with you. Council SF, we also have Western Shore work there. For District 7, we have the wind turbine. We're looking at the maintenance contract on that. Yeah, it's another 3 years, but we'll be here before we know it. And if it's paid off and still good, why not make it work some more? We have the Chester Basin Treatment Plant. We have the Old Annapolis Road survey coming up. That'd be quite a project. They've put a lot of time in the woods so far. We hope to have something this month. And with the Hubbard sidewalks and, of course, the Chester wastewater treatment plant. Hubbard's likely closes next week. Treatment plant end of the month. So lots on the go. Operationally, of course, for our asset management, developing an asset management roadmap and strategy, and looking at all the asset life cycles and the maintenance that goes through with this. We're starting to catch up on the capital, but the preventative maintenance, so on, the asset management, we have a lot of work there. Right? New streetlight policy, we had a presentation on that last month.
That should be changed to the
Yeah. Some districts may disappear with the lights, so we'll see, right? New accessibility standards, we'll be bringing that back to the report to council, those are new. We did a number of work with the bylaws and policies. We have PACE, the water supply and septic system, and the signage bylaw and asset disposal. That's coming back later in the month. When I was helping out with the landfill last year, we were also looking at doing some drones and videos so residents have a better idea what we do out there. And we're also looking at having some drone footage of our projects before and after, just kind of showing the difference. We generally flush our mains once every 5 years, so we're looking at that, make sure we can keep up with that and rotate it. Rotated between the areas, and not as per district. They're just, we cut them up in 5 chunks, and that helps us see which areas are in trouble, which manholes need replacing, and things like that. Standing offers, we're having a hard time getting 3 quotes for a lot of small jobs. So we really want to see who's out there. Maybe if there's local contractors, come see us, right? And try to get that list. So it's quicker for us, it's better for the local economy. Go from there, right?
Yeah, Andre?
What sort of small projects, is it like earthworks or just like?
Yeah, well, we have that heavy equipment contractor. He does great work for us. But, if we need heat pumps, right? Down who need heat pumps for one. Electrical, plumbing, like we have a couple contractors do great work for us there, but a lot of times we have to get 3 quotes, and who's out there? Getting a concrete contractor, wow, it's crazy, right? So makes me nervous with some of these concrete projects with the treatment plants, but it'd be good to see who's out there, even signage. Who's interested, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we'll work with anybody. Work with the Fulcher Foundation. Jonathan's been doing a bit of that. There's an opportunity for funding through there, different projects. Safe work practice and standard operating procedures. We have to do a lot of work there, get everything up to speed, but we're reaching out to other municipalities that have completed it. We're not interested in reinventing the wheel. We just want to tweak it to what works for us. We want everybody coming home at the end of the day. Lots of courses, confined space, scaffolding, first aid, some conferences, and we're looking at our sewer and breaking soils permits, also our inspection forms, and unopened road surveys. We just talked about Annapolis Road, and the communication plan for a new public works facility. And that's going well. Day-to-day activities. 25.6 million. And we just got another 102,000 for the potable water study, so. Green bins, general inquiries, all our sidewalks, treatment plants, ongoing maintenance, testing. And project management, we got about 40 rather, if you want to discuss that after this. And yeah, cleaning facilities, porta potty, heavy equipment. And lots of developers kicking the tires, see what's going on, so. Yeah. Yeah, not bad for 11 positions.
Okay, we're on to the next piece, I guess.
No, that's it, yeah. Unless you want to go through those, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
One question, I guess, is community wells, how are we doing?
We're very close with one group in Chester Basin for signing the contract. There's a lot of back and forth legally there. We're waiting to hear back for the one in East Chester.
Just there.
That's also very positive. And we're putting our own in at the new facility.
Great.
Yeah, so there'll be one for sure, unless we don't hit water. We don't hit water, I give up. Right?
Water security, number one.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good spot.
That actually is a good
Yeah,
idea.
the dug well, there's 2 dug wells there now. And I tried pumping it down and just like back up. So,
That's good.
yeah, yeah. So we're looking at putting the well on the side of the RCMP.
Yep.
So it shouldn't affect the dug wells and, you know.
Oh, well, that's the federal, so they can deal with that out there.
Well, we don't want to be bad neighbors. Right? Especially where they're armed. Right?
Were we gonna, since I still have a live mic here.
Yeah.
Were we gonna do any fencing behind the facility or anything for like to make a yard or a laydown area?
Well, that would be a future phase. Right now, we just put in a budget just to get us in there, right? We had to have a hard look at that. And there's a report coming next week about next steps for that whole project with the Min building and that. You know, to look what the options are for the new administration building as per the budget. And then also have that person look at, well, okay, eventually going to have sidewalk maintenance, eventually have this. Where do you put it? What's the best way to do that? And is there more room on that site for another facility? So that's coming next week.
Yeah, it just seems like it would be a good spot to have, because right now all of our equipment and supplies and stuff are all spread out
Yeah.
everywhere, I think.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to centralize that, keep all your gear and everything in one spot, make a proper
It has to
public works
be,
shed.
right? Yeah, we need all the public works stuff there for sure, absolutely, right? So. And you know, we don't need it tomorrow, but there's some ideas how we can phase in and better budget that so it's sustainable, right?
Okay, anything else? If not, we're gonna move on to 12.5. Information reports, solid waste.
Thank you. So just quickly run through mine and try to keep mine a little bit shorter than my colleagues there, but ours is relatively straightforward too. So as noted, we've seen our first quarter tonnages overall for the site. So overall, we're about 15% over from same time period last year. And then within some of the numbers, you'll sort of see, like, in terms of residual and septic waste, some of that's being driven by a few one-off projects, or just, it's not they don't really occur very regularly, or it's just, we've had, I think we had a Scotia Recycling, they had a number of materials from the fire in Kentville last fall, so it's essentially unmarketable for them, so we got variance to take some of that material, and just a couple other small ones like that, but generally speaking, just a normal progression. We're seeing a bit of an upward trend as well. I think you'll see within some of the, say, mixed C&D waste and wood and asphalt, some of the numbers, they're more broken out now just because of the change in regulations in the last couple of years. So certain materials have to, like clean wood is now separated out from mixed C&D altogether. So that's why you're a little bit more of a breakdown than probably previous years you've seen. And then the contaminated soils, it's just we've had an odd spring in terms of there's been a number of more vehicle accidents that have happened within our catchment areas. So between that, there's been a couple spills and other sites, et cetera, so no rhyme or reason necessarily, just timing of various incidents and projects that have been going on, so that's the overview of where we're at in terms of what's come over to scales, so. In terms of other activities and initiatives, we hope to be out to tender on the new cell, hopefully by the end of this month. That design work's just finishing up. I think the one update on the next one, I don't know if we've got the photos. There we actually did complete the purchase agreement for the new shredder.
Oh, yeah.
Industrial shredder, and so that hopefully will be delivered in the next few weeks. That's Comtech Terminator 3400S, so.
Nice green color.
Yeah. So we are planning to do a little bit of communications around that when that arrives and show that, but certainly the impetus for that is hopefully that will extend out the life of our existing cells, because we'll be able to grind everything down to a smaller volume, get better compaction that way. We're doing decently in that front, but this will hopefully get us that much more, and then keep pushing that out. And then we've also closed on the agreement for the clean out of the septic lagoon. So that takes materials from all of our wastewater treatment plants, all the septic haulers within the county, plus also a few other industrial customers. So that's just closed. That work should start at the end of the month or early August. So we're looking forward to that. That comes up every couple of years or so. So that's sort of ongoing routine maintenance. And there, a photo you saw there, the new tandem truck, the Cruise. So the new one is on the left. As you can see, the Cruise already buoying it to good use. So the one on the right is the unit that it replaces. So just sort of a little bit of a comparison. Certainly, the comments back have been very positive with the new truck in terms of the capabilities it has. It's actually definitely greater than what the previous unit was in terms of that. So beyond that, we've been doing some work with finance to just update on the closure cost estimates for asset retirement obligations. So that's every 3 years, so we're come up for this year. So those estimates have been finalized, so that'll be reflected in the financial statements come future discussions. And also we are in the middle of reviewing the tipping fees as part of the fee policy review as well. So that will be coming in future sessions. And as always, we've got ongoing coordination with our various regulatory bodies. So just to give you a bit of a sample of what that looks like there. So we have our annual report to Nova Scotia Environment. That went in earlier in the year. So that's just updating all the activities for the previous year. We do have a renewal application for the mixed C&D portion pending with Nova Scotia Environment right now. We have to do the one for the municipal solid waste side for the main landfill later this year. So that's in planning stages right now. Also, Environment Canada has different surveys that they require. We also do report to Statistics Canada every year as part of their data collection, and also there's just ongoing environmental monitoring that's required under our various permits. So that's a quick slice of what that side of the operation looks like. And as council's aware, there's just been ongoing discussions with various stakeholders on the EPR work with the new system, so that's on. Just some small site improvements. We've actually, and the CCT, the camera system for the public drop-offs, that's actually been completed now since this was published. So we were just having some intermittent issues with the camera and wiring, so that's been completely redone. And that also some small drainage improvements to Kaiser Mill Road itself. We're finding in the spring there's particularly some soft spots, so that's been looked after. And also resuming some of our team meetings, not just the opportunity to share information within the solid waste team, just to also do our safety briefings as well, as just to make sure we're keeping up with our OH&S obligations there, and just other matters of interest from the organization and ours. And we've been collaborating with Kings and Lunenburg Remos, along with our partners with Joint Services Board and Valley Waste, on a common approach to debris management, since we're formally about a month or so into hurricane season. So we're trying to standardize that process a little bit more, so that work is in progress. And I think we're aiming to try to have the main bolts of it done by early September, is usually when the busiest part of weather season is in that regard. So I guess with that, that's any questions?
Well, you didn't have anything bad to say. Anyone, any questions? If not, just thank you for the update and thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Okay, now where am I at? 12.6. Road name assignments.
Two new quick ones. The first one is Lavender Lane in Gold River. One property owner. It's a unique road name in Nova Scotia, and we have no objections from the fire department or public works.
Anybody got a problem? Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
The second one is in Chester off of Golf Course Road. It's Fairway Lane. It's for a new subdivision. One property owner and no, it's a unique road name. There's no other road names with Fairway Lane in Nova Scotia. No objections from the fire department or public works.
Seconder? Discussion? All those in favor? You want to stay for anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, my. Yeah, 12.6. No, I got that one done. 12.7.
8. I think you just did 6 and 7.
Oh, I did, yeah. 12.8, good. Makes it even better.
So what I have here is a request for decision for a reduction of an amount owed for a sewer connection. I'll skip through to the discussion section, basically. So there was essentially this, so as normal, someone requests a connection to the sewer main. Public Works estimates an amount for that connection cost. They pay a deposit based on that estimate. Once the work is done, we true it up, figure out the actual cost, and either refund them the difference or bill them for the difference. In this case, there was significant delay in both processes, the connection process as well as the billing true-up process. And what happened is the owner of the property was therefore unable to do their intended plan of financing the cost of this lateral connection through their mortgage. And so they've come to us expressing concern over the ability to fund the overage, which is just shy of $6,000, $5,974.51, including HST. So this is in September 2022. Daniel Walker at 4033 Highway 3 in Chester requested that connection and paid the $20,000 estimated cost. December 2023 was when the work was completed, and the total cost to the municipality was that $25,974.51. And then in January of 2025, we sent him the invoice for the difference. Now, the delay of, there was, so the cost increased, there was a couple contributing factors. One, when the estimate was prepared, the thought was that the sewer main was at 8 or 9 feet deep. When they started the work, they discovered it was closer to 11 feet, so there was some additional work to get to the lateral, or to the main. They also discovered that there was some work required on the property owner's side to connect that lateral. So there was some additional costs. Those have been passed on to the resident. The delays here, so the 15-month timeline between paying the deposit and having the work completed was primarily due to the flooding of July 2023, which impacted the availability of the contractors to do this work. And then the delay for 13 months between completing the work and sending the final invoice was due to the sewer connection deposit reconciliation process that had been dropped due to some staffing turnover. And it took some time to get that back up to speed. That was one of the items that I mentioned earlier in my report about my department's work. So working between finance and public works to reestablish that process. That has been successfully reestablished. All these files that were sitting there have been done. This is the only one that's caused any significant issues. We do not expect that problem to continue because we have set that back up in a way that is working now. So what we're recommending from administration is to offer a 50% reduction in the outstanding amount and to give the option of allowing a reduced financing cost on the outstanding amount to align with what we would offer for people participating in the septic upgrade program of 3% per year, instead of our usual 1% per month for outstanding charges. Of course, council could, at their option, choose any other amount. They could say, nope, you've got to pay it all. You could say, no, we'll forgive it all. It's really up to you what you want to do. We're recommending a midpoint with a little bit of financing assistance at 3%.
Are we comfortable with the recommendation, people? Tom?
Thank you, Warden Weber, through you to Tim. This had some complications, obviously, and you're recognizing those issues that balance back and forth. I've spoken with this gentleman a couple of times, and he was concerned, and I think his concerns were legit. I move we go with option one.
We have a seconder?
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. 12.9, district grants. And we have 3. So we want them separated out, people, or?
From there, they're very straightforward. So 3 district applications, 1 from District 2 for the Hubbard Sailing Club. They've got an event coming up, Optimus Provincial Championships, which is pretty fantastic to be able to host that locally here. So that's a $500 request. 40s Community Center, they're looking to put on their annual widely celebrated Oktoberfest event, and so they're looking for some funding towards that. And the 40s Garden Club are looking for some funding to help with their beautification that they do in the community, both at the 40s Community Center and a couple of the churches in the community there.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
I move so.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. And I don't know if it's possible, but I think it's the last, well, not quite the last item on the agenda, but getting there is 12.11. Where do I have that now?
The recreation facility.
Hmm?
The recreation facility?
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to find it in my agenda, in my package.
It was a separate.
Yeah, it was a separate.
Oh, you gave it up.
Yeah, she did, but I just don't know where it is. That's all right, but before we get started here, I have something I need to do, and I think we all know that Gord has been elected as president of the Canadian Parks and Recreation Association, and he's here today, so I must admit that I just want to say a few words. We're thrilled to celebrate Gord Tate of the Municipality of Chester as the new president of the Canadian Parks and Recreation Association. Gord was officially elected at CPRA in Saskatchewan this week, ahead of the Canadian Inclusive Green Spaces Symposium, succeeding Howie Dayton as the chair of the National Organization for Recreation and Parks. We're proud to see Nova Scotia represented as well on the national stage. We wish Gord all the best as he heads CPRA in advancing recreation and parks for all Canadians. And Gord spent his early career working in what? You don't want to no. Anyway, congratulations, and we're glad to have you.
That's all I could ask.
Yeah, really. Tara wrote it for me. I knew it was. There's way more.
Yeah,
There's way more
I've
than I
heard it
ever.
before.
I'm
Thank
usually
you.
short and sweet.
I'll just thank you for that recognition, and I am proud that I'm at this point of my career and professional life and service to the Municipality of Chester that I have the trust of colleagues from across the country to allow me to serve in that position. So thanks for recognizing that.
Yeah. No, are you going to bring them all down here?
I've been dreaming about that actually. How I could
Well,
actually
there you
conspire
go.
to make
You
that
see,
happen,
that's-
get everyone here. Yeah.
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 We might as well have them in our community and.
That's right. That's Saskatoon.
What? How long's your term?
It's a 2-year term.
Okay, 2 years? Is that good enough for you?
You got 2 years to get them here then.
Pardon, Sam?
You got 2 years to get them here.
Yeah. We meet a few times, so see what I can do.
Okay, floor is
Go ahead.
yours.
Okay.
I'm just looking for my copy, that's all. Okay, I
All right.
got it.
Good day, council. Thanks for having me here today. And I'm here on behalf of the Recreation Facilities Steering Committee. The group is very early on in the planning process for the new recreation facility. I'm sure that I will be back here many times providing updates to you and asking for decisions from you as well and direction. But an early priority that the steering committee has identified is to really build out a fulsome community engagement process. And what they're hoping to achieve by doing that is making sure that we have quality, consistent messaging, that we can kind of maximize the fundraising, the capital campaign activities as well. You know, build community trust through transparency, and also make sure that we have genuine and complete engagement across the entire municipality as well when we're envisioning what this new facility might be. So what I'm here to do today is ask you to assign $35,000 from the Economic Development Reserve to support these community engagement activities. 20,000 of that would actually go towards communications and PR work, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in just a second. And then $15,000 of that would support community outreach work across the municipality as well. For the $20,000 for the PR work, one flag I just want to give you is that we are already in the procurement process to hire a PR firm to support particularly Brian's economic development and growth strategy work. So that is underway right now. So part of this proposal is that we would just expand the scope of that successful firm's work to include or incorporate the work of the Recreation Facility Steering Committee. But additional revenue or additional dollars would be being asked for to support that. And then with the $15,000 outreach, just an immediate kind of next step that's on our horizon is that we're hosting or hoping to host in July and August free field trips across the province as well. So there's costs associated with that, transit, that kind of stuff. So that's the next thing on the to-do list for the steering committee. So just to give you a sense, and in that RFD that we provided, there's other activities under each of those categories, which I'm happy to speak to as well if you'd like. So with that,
Questions,
any
people?
questions you might have?
Somebody prepared?
Councillor
Oh, sorry.
No, just a question, and it might be in here around the timeline, especially how it marries up with the growth strategy and the outreach, because again, I know my community is really waiting to be engaged, if you will, and mostly it's around land and access to water and purchase of property by the municipality to ensure that in New Ross. And I see it, I'm seeing it more frequently on the Facebook posts with our community Facebook Neighbors Helping Neighbors. And I'm waiting for people to, no one's reached out to me just yet other than a general discussion, but I'm seeing where there's a movement happening. So I'm just readying for that. What's the timeline on getting out to, say, New Ross, for example?
Yes, I think there's two answers to that, Tina. So one is from a procurement standpoint, that RFP closes on July 30th, Brian. So July 30th, and then shortly after that, we should have someone in place to engage in the big growth strategy activities. And a subset of that then would be the recreation facility work, and more broadly, the open space work that you've also tasked me with taking on as well. So I think once we have that PR firm in place and we can kind of put all the puzzle pieces together, I'd say shortly on the heels of July 30th, into August and September is when you'll start to see that engagement. I also don't want to speak on Brian's behalf. He's sitting behind me, so if you'd like to add to that, Brian, is that reasonable to expect?
I think that would be reasonable.
Perfect. Yeah. And I'm really sometimes just being very specific around the land and the water access, because I'm seeing that, but I know it's more than that, because I know that even when we had the discussion, the growth strategy meeting in January maybe, at the New Ross Fire Hall, I'm trying to remember when that was. It wasn't January maybe, but I've seen people at that growth strategy session that we had at the New Ross Fire Hall that I've never seen out at a public meeting before. And I'm not sure, were you there, Brian?
I think Ashley was there on our behalf. Yeah.
Oh, Garth was there, right? And I was so happy because I didn't prompt the discussion, but it was around the active transportation, the sidewalks, and they were complimenting the municipality because of just all the stuff. And so it's just wonderful to see that appreciation. So there's discussions happening.
the thing I can add as well is from a recreation facility steering committee standpoint only, we've also built into that timeline a outreach period as well, kind of through August, September, October, I think 4 or 5 months we've
Okay.
mapped out in that.
Perfect.
And just to say as well, Brian and I are talking more frequently these days as well, thinking about how open space, trails, recreation
Yeah.
fit into the larger growth strategy, so we're not doing that in isolation from each
Right
other.
on.
Feel free to add.
So the only thing I'll add, because Gord did a really good job of providing a timeline on the PR side of things and the rec side of things. So the bigger plans around open spaces, I think we're currently anticipating having something on council agenda for the end of July to kind of talk about an overall plan for public spaces and open spaces, kind of provide a phased approach and how we're going to be tackling that. As far as specific conversations around purchase of land or water access, we don't have work plans or anything like that. So I just wanted to make sure that I
Right.
clarified that.
And I consider that part of my new role as well, to develop those work plans, so.
Tom?
Thank you, Warden Weber. To council, this is an exciting time in this municipality to be looking at all these things starting to come together, the hard work of what's going to happen for our growth strategy, the recreation. We have to realize we've been a municipality that has been very fortunate. We've had a lot of wonderful gifts, a lot of work by a lot of volunteers. It's time things are changing. We have to look at things a bit different. So I am excited, and I thank everybody for their work. I'd like to make the motion to assign $35,000 from the Economic Development Reserve to support the RFSC activities. $20,000 would be assigned to PR activities. $15,000 would be assigned to the outreach activities.
Seconder?
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you all.
Okay.
And just so you don't forget, at 3 o'clock this afternoon, we're doing the grand opening of the Han Natural Area as well. So you're all invited.
Okay. Okay, Tom, you had a couple of
Well,
things you want to mention or
Thank
something?
you, Warden Weber. I got about a half a dozen quick things here. I'm getting lots of calls and thoughts on deers. I know we're going to have to talk about that.
We're gonna put it on the next agenda.
Thank you very much. I've had a number of calls and concerns already about water and wells and asking folks to start thinking about being reserved in what they waste their water on and what they use their water on, those kind of things. I'm getting a lot of concerns about Friday activity around the market, the farmer's market up at the train station, the corner of the traffic that's coming down past the old Windjammer coming out North Street. I encourage people, I've talked to our colleagues in different levels of government, please be careful on Fridays. We have a lot of people crossing the trail there. We have a lot of traffic going in and out. Some really close misses that I hope don't turn into accidents, but it's definitely something that we have to be aware of. And if we can do anything, I'd like council to think about what might be able to be posted there.
I think there'll be a letter on the next agenda as well.
Perfect, thank you. Saturday, this past Saturday, thanks to quick action by all the fire departments of the municipality, and I want to thank our CAO and Bruce Blackwood, who both came to alert very quickly. We averted a very potential serious situation at Shoreham Village. Staff out there should be commended, everyone else. Yes, there's always concerns and issues afterwards. Yes, they laid a huge hose to supply water from the Chester waterfront up around and cause some people some inconvenience, but that's a small price to pay potentially what could have happened. So I want to thank everyone for that and all the people that were working on that. It's nice to see that the Department of Public Works, provincial-wise, have been doing some trimming of the sides of the streets and the corners so people can see. Some potholes are getting filled. I'm also getting a lot of calls about uneven shoulders of the road. Again, if they're provincial roads, we're working with our colleagues to try to see if we can get something accomplished, but sometimes that's not our responsibility, but we are definitely willing to see what we can work and play with. And I want to thank the many community groups that have put on events so far and looking forward to more in the summer. Some of these people do have some concerns about parking, some noise and those kind of things, but in a lot of cases, these are community fundraisers that are one-time shots that absolutely are essential to their future, to their fundraising capability to keep going, and to our communities. A lot of people like to get out and now do things, and let's have a little understanding and patience, folks, and work together. So I'm encouraging everyone to enjoy the events that are around our municipality, support each other, And if you have a challenge, you know, you can speak to me, I have no problem with that, but there's a lot of things that we have to understand. There's some necessary actions to allow safe things to occur and be done right. So thank you, Warden. And I'd like to mention, I know we talked about a review of our CAO. I'd like to make sure that we get that somewhere down the board and on the schedule
I'm
to
going
be
to meet
done.
with all of the councilors soon,
Yeah, that would be something I'd like to see done, because I know
before I prepare the report.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for allowing me to do this. Thank you.
Okay, we have one in-camera matter. So, motion to go in camera? Second? Discussion?